Hey, welcome back, guys. I'm so excited today. I feel like sometimes, you need somebody in your life and the world sends them to you. I've been having some serious like joint and back problems. Trevor and I reach out to each other on social media, and my guest today, he has the fix for pretty much everything. I'm really excited to have him on the podcast. He is a previous cancer survivor, an incredible story of surviving cancer 17 years ago. He had a lung removed just last year from a tumor. And even though he does that, he still runs the Smashwerx YouTube channel. They have almost 300,000 subscribers. It's got incredible body hacks. This guy is an incredible fitness champion. He also runs the Spartan Company, where they teach you about fitness and about mindset. Please welcome Mr. Trevor Bachmeyer, Dr. Trevor Bachmeyer, to the podcast. How you doing, Trevor?
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Glad to be here, man.
Glad to see you, man. Glad to have you on the podcast. So can we go over this, the original idea for Smashwerx? Where did this come from? What were you going through in your life to get to where you were passing out all this incredible information?
Yeah, that's actually easy. So I guess about 11 years ago now, my dad died. It's funny because the way I say it is he died of shoulder problems.
Yeah.
Not really, but his doctor was telling him to take Tylenol. And so my dad, big stubborn German man, he would go to the doctor, didn't listen to anything I said because I was his son, not a doctor, right? Even though I had gone to med school, I'd done all this stuff, but I was just his boy. And his doctor said, just take Tylenol. He was taking 12 to 14 Tylenol a fucking day. So He died of end-stage liver disease. And so it didn't help his shoulders at all. And it pissed me off. So for a while, I was just kind of doing my thing and doing PT and doing chiro and working with people. And I looked online one day and I went, nobody is showing anybody how to do this stuff. They're coming up with these cookie cutter pamphlets and they're like, here, do this. I'll see you in 4 weeks, and all the same bullshit all the time. And I said, this is wrong. So I grabbed my phone, and one of my friends, this guy, Kieran Fitzgibbons, he owns a gym called CSA. It's a lot of fighters go there in Dublin, California. And he's like, hey, are you on social media? You should talk about the stuff you do. And I went, yeah, I'm on YouTube. And he goes, that's not social media, man. I said, okay, fine. Give me your phone. So he takes my phone and he goes, what do you want to call yourself? I said, I don't know. I smash things. Smashwerx. And he goes, oh, that actually works. And he puts it in there. And that's how the name came about.
That's incredible.
And I started posting stuff. And my first post was so bad that, I mean, now you post this way, right? But back then it was like this.
Yeah.
And so I posted like this, and I had these two black fucking stripes on either side of my video. I was like a mile away, and it went nuclear.
That's incredible.
And so I just started posting every day, and my following just exploded.
That's amazing. For those of you who are watching this and you have any kind of like joint pain or anything, and you've been looking for well, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So I have a problem with my hip, and he was explaining there's 27 different muscles. Is that correct, in the hip, or that control the hip?
52 that control the total hip. Yeah. On either side combined. Yeah.
52. And this is the kind of detail that we're talking about. You were showing this one neck stretch right here where you look up and to the left, and there's this muscle that I didn't even know that this thing, like it's one of these things where you watch his videos and muscles pop out you didn't know existed, and joints that you did, joints that have Latin names that you had no fucking idea what they were called. He starts describing them. And it's like, and the other thing that's crazy is like, you figure there's like one knee fix or one hip fix. No, he creates content every week. There's like 300 videos on there just going over all these different ways to fix joint pain, and they work. Let me tell you specifically, absolutely. They absolutely work. I've heard several testimonies. It's very clear for me, a former U.S. military officer, one of the things we have to be is competent in what we're discussing, especially different platforms in the aircraft. With you, it's very clear that you understand some of these different things that like people don't get. And when you talk about the grisly moves of putting the tennis ball in the plantar fasciitis, or right here in the it's those kind of videos, and they're extremely helpful for somebody who, you want to stay away from opioids, you want to stay away from surgery, you want to find a normal way through stretching and kinesiology to find a way to fix whatever joint problem you have. I highly, highly, highly recommend this channel. So thank you. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Let's talk about this. A couple things. You talked about, you had non-Hodgkin lymphoma 17 years ago. Can you talk about what got you over that? What got you through that? You talked about never accepting the fact that whole thing was going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. It's a wild story because so I had a flu, and typical fucking guy, right? Like we're like sick, we're like, whatever, I'll handle it. Except I had a flu flu, I use this right quotations, but I was sick for maybe 2 months, 3 months. Oh, that's just too fucking long. It never went away. So I felt like I was constantly like tender skin, sick, all this stuff. I went into one of my friends that was a doctor, and I said, listen, can you just check me out? Turns out I end up with cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then it just like went nuclear after that. They were checking me out. They did all these scans. you know, CAT scans, PET scans, everything, MRIs. They literally took pictures of everything I had. And it turned out it was everywhere. So it had metastasized. It was stage 3B, so both sides of the diaphragm, all over my lungs. There's these lymph nodes in your chest called hilar lymph nodes. It was like everywhere in my chest. I actually had a thymus. You're not supposed to once you're an adult. It was like this big, you know, it was just pushing on my heart. I kept collapsing and passing out. I'd cough up blood. Like, it was brutal. And they went, there's nothing we can fucking do. That is the answer I got from most of the healthcare professionals. And then they started saying, you're too weak to do chemo. And so I went, well, I was, at the time I had a shitload of money. So I went, well, fuck it. If I'm going to go, I'm going to party. And I just said, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go off the bank. So I started blowing money like crazy. And you just, you know, you manufacture all these friends. And then all of a sudden I started to go, fuck, what if I make it? I'm going to be screwed. And I was bitter. Like, Michael, I was so bitter. I hated God. I hated my parents. I blamed everybody, because I went, like, I was the guy that had chicken and broccoli and rice in my fucking fridge. And I'm like, how does a cereal get to be 95? This piece of shit, except I'm not doing anything bad. Like, I'm just a regular dude. And I was bitter about that. And my dad was a preacher. And I said, you know, God's just out to fuck me over. He's just out to get me. And my dad's like, you know, it's not how it works. And I was like, well, he is for me. Right. And one day I was in my apartment and I had almost no money left. I was just tapped out, and I sat there and I was looking outside my sliding windows on my second floor balcony in Dublin. And I said, you know, you better give me a reason to be here, God. Like, you better, because I'm going to do it myself. I thought he was going to win by killing me. Right. So I was like, I'm not going to let you win. And I chambered around. And I started bawling because I was going to end it myself. And I started bawling. I fell asleep. And 2 days later, I met my wife. And it was instant. It was one of those things where if somebody says that's not true, no, it's fucking true. I've dated a shitload of people. I've been around a lot of people. It doesn't matter. I met my wife. I knew the second I met her. And 3 months later, we were engaged. And 3 months after that, we were married. And I sat across from her at a table. And we were at this, I think it was a Chevy's restaurant, like just this like run-of-the-mill restaurant. There's nobody in this place. It was like our first date. And I said, in my head, I'm like, I gotta fucking tell this woman that I have cancer and that it's trying to kill me and that I got less than 9 months to live. And I'm like, I can't be that douche that goes, hey, guess what? And we're going to get into this great relationship and everything's going to pan out and we're going to hit it off. And then I'm going to die. And I knew the whole fucking time, you're a selfish prick if you do that. So I'm like, I can't do that. So I'm like, fuck, Brandy, I got to tell you something, man. And she goes, is it about cancer? And I almost fell over. And I go, yeah. And she goes, well, she was a trainer at the gym at the time. And she goes, well, people at the gym are saying like, you're not doing so well. And they see how sick you've been and everything. And I said, yeah, I said, it's really bad. And I told her, I said, they didn't give me a lot of time, Randy. I said, I just understand that. And she didn't miss a beat. She goes, if you give me 2 months or 2 days or 2 years, she goes, I don't care. She goes, I'll take it. And that right there was a catalyst that changed everything that's going on in my head, because I went, I got a fucking why. You know, and I had no kids. I was just this money hungry guy before that. Like, I chased cars, girls, money. It didn't matter. I just wanted it all, right? I wanted the rock star life. And I met her and I went, fuck, I have a why. I can't go. Fuck this. So I ignored everything they said. They put me through chemotherapy, just about killed me. And they gave me what's called the CHOP series of chemo. And I remember the Vincristine was like syrup. Like, it was like the color of this Coke can.
Yeah.
Brutal. And I was sick. I would come home, big bruises all over me. I puke nonstop. And I remember coming home from chemo one time and we had a 1.5 yards of gravel on our driveway. And I start moving the gravel. And my wife's like, what are you doing? I said, it's got to get fucking done, man. So I would just never stop. Didn't matter. I listened. They were like, go relax, hang out, sleep, rest, go see movies, all this stuff. I'm like, are you high? This thing does better when you work it like a rented fucking mule. It doesn't do better when you sit on your ass. And so I just kept grinding away. And I remember as I got sicker doing chemo, I went to the doctor and I walked with a cane. Like, I was sick as fuck. And I said, listen, I said, if I was your son, I closed the door and I said, would you give your son this? Would you do this to your boy? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. Well, yes, this is the most effective treatment for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I banged my can on the floor and I said, fucking look at me. I go, look at me. I'm fucking dying because of what you have me on. Would you do this? If I was your son, would you do this? And he started tearing up and he went, no. And I stuck my hand out and I said, that's the last time you're going to see me. Thanks for being honest. And I never came back. And I tried everything since. I changed what I ate, changed what I did, cut out every ounce of sugar, didn't do a fucking thing other than going. And I would sit there and watch funny movies. I kid you not. I Man's Search for Meaning, Anatomy of an Illness. I read all those because they got in my head. And I would watch funny movies like Shrek and American Pie and like anything I could to make myself laugh. And I would just keep telling myself, I'm healthy, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm strong. And you know, I've had a lot of people poo-poo that idea and go, no, you're just lucky. Fuck luck. There's no such thing as luck. Fuck your luck. I believed 100%. I still do. I'm not done. So I just kept telling myself, motherfucker, you're not done. That's who you're living your life with. Those are all the things you want to do. And you're just warming up. And I just kept plugging away. And all of a sudden, I got a little better, a little better, a little better. And that's how it started. And I was a train wreck. Like, I'm not as bad as I was when I came out of the hospital a year ago, but it was rough. But I just didn't quit. And that's basically the cliff notes of the journey. Well, it was rough.
So from the doctor's standpoint, you just went into remission afterwards, and like.
So what happened is they tried to pass it off on the CHOP chemo, right? They were like, of course they want to take credit, right?
Sure.
Like, oh yeah, it was the chemotherapy residual effects. And I go, residual effects? All my fucking hair fell out, my eyebrows, like everything was gone. I mean, nuts. Your body knows a poison. You know, it's like guys that spray on bug spray. Like I grew up in Winnipeg. We have mosquitoes the size of your hand. You know. And you know why they don't come near you when you spray deep on your fucking body? Because they're like, hell no. They're smarter than you are. Like, this is a Coke Zero. It's always funny for me. If I took this and I put it on a plate, this is toxic shit. I know. Yeah. But if I take this and I pour it on a plate and I leave it outside, how many bugs are going to eat that? Zero.
Bugs don't like aspartame. Bugs were not naturally selected to eat aspartame. Correct. Yeah.
Right. Like we know that. We're so fucking dumb as humans half the time, right? Yeah. But it tastes good, right? So, but they wanted to attribute it to all the stuff they did. They radiated me. I had big burns on my chest from they had to make a mold of my heart, right, to cover it. So when they did the radiation, I had these big red, just second, third degree burns on my chest. They took a sample because it got into my bone marrow. So they took a core sample, basically, of my hip, the innominate bone up here. Nothing more painful than that. That was brutal. And they basically cored me like an apple, right? But they attributed it to all the stuff they did. I don't. Honestly, real talk, I did. I believed that I was not going to fucking die and I wasn't done. It's that simple. And if somebody doubts it, that's on them. But I'm still here. You know, and I kept training and working and pushing it and getting, I would rest and work out and rest and work out. There were times my wife would have to help me up the stairs. I'd sit on the bike because that's all I could do, the exercise bike, and that's all I could do, but I was not going to stop. And I think all of that is what had the most profound effect on me and my mindset, where I went, I have a reason. And it wasn't a reason where you're like, yeah, I kind of want to do that. It'd be cool. I don't deviate. Like, it was not up for debate. So I just kept going.
You said something interesting. You said you did not accept, or you never accepted that you had cancer.
No, I never went, I have it. I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't even take ownership of that. I'm like, the second I own that, it's going to fucking kill me. So I just kept getting up and going, this is something that is not, you're not welcome here. This is not a home for you. Because if you really break down cancer, if you look at it from just pure physiology, everybody has cancer all of the time. Your body produces 7 billion cells a day. And 1% of all those cells are mutated cells, which means you have cancer all of the time and you get rid of it all of the time. Your brain recognizes only two things, self or other. That's it. There's no fancy shit when people are like, oh, these cytotoxic, killer T cells, and what they do is this. Listen, you want to dumb it down to a third grade level, self and other. That's it. So it doesn't recognize that it's other, so it lets it proliferate. Well, if you give somebody chemotherapy, this is where they've done the same three fucking things for cancer for 40 years. They burn you, they slice you, or they poison you. None of them work. And so if they're going to give you something that now causes you to turn over 15, 16, 17 billion cells a day, and your rate of mutation is still 1%, are you making more mutated cells? It's math. Fuck, yeah. So that means they're going to increase your rate of cancer. The second time I got cancer, by the way, Michael, was they went, oh, that's really common. Really common? Chemotherapeutic-induced cancer.
Wait, common? Oh, so you got cancer from the chemotherapy because it was irradiating your immune system. Oh, wow. Okay. I understand.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, if we take a couple steps back, because you are a medical doctor, the idea with chemotherapy is supposed to reset your immune system to where it identifies the cancer as being, so for a lot of people don't realize this. Cancer is just, like you said before, whenever we have cell mitosis, we have cellular mitosis. Occasionally, the mitosis will create a mutated version of the cell, and when you have a bunch of them and they don't sort of fit in with the rest of your biology, you would get what's called a tumor. It's just a mass of cells that don't really do shit. And
exactly.
And those things can, if they're in the wrong place, if they're in your brain, they can kill you. If they're near your heart, those things can kill you, right? And so what you're saying is, because of the chemotherapy was causing the reset, it was just a reset of that 1% of mutated cells, which caused you to get those more, and you actually got a second type of cancer from the chemotherapy.
Sure. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like, I mean, you said it exactly the right way. You're creating a cell that your body goes, well, it's me, so I'm having a hard time recognizing whether or not I should kill it or I should allow it to live. So fuck it, I'll just let it go. And then they're migratory cells, which makes it even worse, right? So they're just going to float around and stick on something else. And this is like a very simplified version.
So you're talking about from lymphoma. Your lymphatic system is now carrying these cancer cells.
Highway.
Yeah, right. Think of, guys, for those of you who don't know, the lymph nodes is almost like the sewer system for your body to discard waste. Yeah. Yeah.
So they migrate all over the place, which is how they got everywhere. Like I have a big bump on my head right about here, and it's not from, getting a knot from Farmer Joe when I was a kid dirt biking in his yard. It's because there was a mass under there and it's pushing up underneath my skull. It's still there. It's just now it's benign. So I don't want to fuck with it. I've learned too, don't fuck with shit if it's not doing bad things to you. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
You're scratching an itch and asking for a problem.
That's crazy, man.
So basically what had happened is they went, well, your immune system's so weak, it's struggling, because my immune system got destroyed from this.
I mean, that's what radiation therapy is supposed to do. It's supposed to reset the immune. Theoretically, this is what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to reset your immune system. When your immune system comes back up, it's supposed to recognize that these cancer cells are not part of you, right? So when you guys hear about an autoimmune disorder, autoimmune means your immune system is attacking the self, like you talk about the self and the other. In this case, there is what's happened is your immune system is not identifying the cancer cells as being other, and so the idea is radiation therapy is supposed to almost be Control-Alt-Delete, restart your immune system to where it's hopefully going to recognize that this is the other and then attack it. But often that doesn't work.
It almost never works. And it's twofold, right? It's designed to burn the cells, basically kill them, right? Because they target, right? Because I even had radio frequency ablation. Like I have a bunch of gold in my lungs. Guess it increases my worth, right?
Yeah.
Where they had to use that because your lungs they move. And so the beam for the RFA had to have something to track, because since it's a mobile portion of your body, right?
Yeah.
So they put these little flecks of gold in there, and then it would track the gold and zap the cancer cells, right? It was completely ineffective, and all it did was make me cough up blood for like a year. But it's one of those things that it's incredibly expensive, makes a lot of money, and there's not a doctor on the planet that is the 99%. I'm not saying the 1%, because the 1%, they're badass motherfuckers that want people to be healthy. But the 99%, they're salesmen for pharmaceutical companies and surgery, and that's sad.
Yeah. Have you
part of what we say is, above all, do no harm.
Right. Hippocratic oath, of course. Yeah. I'm curious. Have you looked into some of the things where they actually talk about using viruses to attack cancer cells? Have you seen anything about this?
Yeah, it freaks me out because I've seen Resident Evil way too many times. So I'm not going to get superpowers.
So for those of you who don't know, in the concept of Resident Evil, I don't know if they're actually using the measles vaccine. Also, I Am Legend, the movie I Am Legend, the premise of the premise of the movie I Am Legend is that they mutated a measles virus to go and specifically attack cancer cells, and it worked. It completely eradicated cancer. What it did though is it's caused this massive hyperthyroidism, which caused the people turned into fucking zombies that had translucent skin. That's the whole premise of the movie. But that actually is real science.
Zombies in that movie, by
correct.
the way.
Yes.
When a zombie's outrunning you, it's not like it was in the 50s, man. That's some scary shit.
That's so funny. Yeah, that is the premise behind that movie. That's
you're right. What concerns me with stuff like that is only, well, it's two things. Number one is I don't think we know enough.
Yeah, of course.
I really don't. And I get it that, medical, the miracles of modern medicine have saved so many lives. I have nothing against that. But when it comes to healthcare, they suck.
Yeah.
They do not promote healthcare. I know more trainers that are more effective at generating health in a human being than doctors. And that's just because it's like anything. It's like life. Life is mostly training. Everything else is commentary, right?
Yeah.
So that's how they kind of look. That's how I look at this. So my questions, I made a post today, it got nothing but heat. I was actually trying to get hate. I just didn't get enough. But it was, I basically said, so, they're overweight, never seen the inside of a gym, on 7 different drugs, smoker, has a big gulp on their desk, but they're my doctor. So should I listen to their advice? Asking for a friend, right? But, I got all kinds of people giving me static about that, but I'm like, that's the bulk of the fucking doctors.
Yeah. That is so crazy.
So I have a hard time taking their opinion seriously.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're like, you joined the fucking military after 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that it?
Yeah, right after 9/11, yeah.
For a reason. You want to why? Because you're like, I'm not going to put up with this bullshit. So you have a platform to stand on, to give an opinion that's valid. Everybody has an opinion, but some people just shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. I go, if you don't know anything about the subject, shut up.
Yeah, having an overweight trainer. Yeah, having an overweight trainer is kind of a big thing.
Weird to me,
Bradley talks about that often. Like, you should not have an overweight trainer.
My wife and I were just talking about. She was basically a professional soccer player, right?
Yeah.
And so probably, like, if you've ever seen her in any of my videos, she's a fucking beast.
Yeah, she is.
She is such a beast, and she's hot as fuck. Like, she's just awesome. Like, my wife is my best friend, hands down. She's like, through every single adversity, I've learned this. If you are next to somebody that has your 6 all the time and you have theirs, you are completely unstoppable. It's not a matter of, well, I don't know. You are. It's as immutable as gravity. But being that person requires something that most people aren't willing to do, which is complete vulnerability with a partner, right? Like, you have to give them all the tools and all the weapons to utterly obliterate you, everything in your arsenal, to completely destroy you, trusting the fact that they're not going to do it. And most people don't do it. They go, I'll do it when they do. Well, that's why it's not going to work. Because that's why they don't have your back. That's why they shit talk about you to their friends, because you're an insecure bitch and you're putting out stuff and you're not being that person. You're asking for it, but you're not being it. It's the same principle with a fat trainer or an overweight doctor or a smoker that's, trying to tell you all about emphysema.
That's incredible. Yeah, we talk about that rule number 5 in MOA is we don't talk shit about people behind their back. And if someone's doing better than us, we're always going to try to learn from them. And we also have this concept of circles. Circle 1 are the people who actually could put me in prison. Like, they know where all the bodies are buried. They know everything about my life. Circle 2 are people I like, but they don't know everything. Circle 3 are people I'm neutral towards. Circle 4, people I have to deal with, but I don't particularly like. And Circle 5 are people I avoid. And that's essentially what you're talking about there. Like, you have to put your trust in someone in order for them to be willing to do the same thing for you. You have to kind of take that first step forward. A lot of people have a pessimistic or scarcity mindset, and so they're not going to do that. They're not going to take that chance. It's very rare that I have a medical doctor on here who's had cancer. So I got to ask you this question. It's something I've always wondered. Have you also seen this experimentation with using HGH to grow tumors in order to make them more operable? Have you ever seen this before?
Okay, so I've heard about it. That scares the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason. So that's one of the reasons. Like, people always ask me, like, dude, I'm 49 now, right? And they're like, dude, you are like really fit, man. Do you do growth? I'm like, fuck no. Because it scares the fuck out of me, because it doesn't make particular cells grow.
It makes
all cells grow.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't want to take that risk. I have a 13-year-old, a 16-year-old, and an incredible wife and a kick-ass fucking life. So there's no way I'm going to jeopardize that. I'm just going to keep going hard into the paint. But it's the idea behind it is sound. What concerns me is only one thing, and that is that, imagine if you have a mass in site A on your body, but you have non-detectable, doesn't mean it's not there.
Yes.
Non-detectable, same thing, migratory cancer cell elsewhere, and you flood the body with growth hormone. Well, now you've just created a whole new problem.
Yeah.
So that concerns me.
Yeah, that's the issue of HGH is that for people, you're supposed to get checked for like cancer factors before people take that.
And then how accurate are they, right?
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. Yeah, like, have you ever seen the things where children will lose like a joint when they're like very small and they'll actually grow back like before the age of 2 because they're flooded with HGH?
That's like some lizard shit, man.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Like, when they talk about little babies are very, very durable, there's people, oh my God, I dropped the baby.
Shit.
A lot of the times,
Tough. I did a call one time. It was I did ACLS calls when I was working trauma. And I did a call one time, and it was a burning building. It was a dead of winter. So the ground is frozen, like just cock fucking stiff, right? And 3 stories up, the building's on fire. Mom panics, throws the baby out the window. she jumps. Baby gets bumps and bruises, mom dies.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
They're tough. They used to stuff you under a rock.
Well, no,
go hunting.
The thing is, yeah, this is what people don't understand is like you had natural selection had to choose for durable babies. Right? Yeah. Just like natural select. Look, again, childbirth is not fun from what I hear. I haven't done it, but from what I understand from women, it's a horribly painful process. So what would have to happen is after childbirth, the evolution would have to create a situation for you to be flooded with oxytocin, for you to be willing to give your life for this child. Otherwise, why the fuck keep having children? Right? Yep. So the reward center in your brain rewards you for having children, even though it's this incredibly uncomfortable, painful process. And then when you ask people about, oh my God, children's the greatest thing in the world, that's the reason why. Natural selection would have to choose for that. When people grow up without parents, they obviously throughout evolutionary history, sometimes people would grow up without parents and they would be able to survive. That's why there's a redundancy. Humans are able to adapt for not having parents, or sometimes from serious injury, or from losing a limb, or there's other things that they're redundancies. It has to be a robust species. The reason why I know is because we made it 3 million years. That's the reason why we're still here. That's exactly my point. And by the way, we're still here, and the other 15 species of hominids, they're not here. We ate them.
Like, dude, I love that you said that, because people get on their pedestal and they're like, well, I go, let me help you out. Historically, we've been fucking winning. We're still winning.
Yeah.
Like, stop worrying about dumb shit. Like, God, that's the bane. I think that like the two biggest problems in human existence is, number one, the most destructive force in the universe is the desire to be right.
Yeah.
And number two is the cynicism about what is possible. I think both of those are so fucking destructive. The proof is just turn around, and I'm not a big fan of looking in the rearview mirror unless it's to go, oh, dude, I smoked you. But other than that, fuck, we're still winning.
Well, the fact that I bring this up all the time. So as far as mammals are concerned, there really aren't many slower, weaker mammals than Homo sapiens. I mean, there's a few when you consider artificial selection, yes, you have Yorkshire Terriers and house cats for sure. But for the most part, a lion, a tiger, and bear, which are mammals, would kill the shit out of you. An elephant can run faster than you and has tougher skin. Like, we're not a very tough species. We're the smartest species, no doubt. But when you consider the fact that we have all these weaknesses that we do, we will not stand a chance. 50 people against one fucking grizzly bear, we're gonna die.
Yep.
When you consider that, and the fact that there are fewer than 400,000 elephants left on the planet and 8 billion humans, this is whenever when I hear people talk about, is society going to change? I'm like, no, there's no evolutionary pressure to change, because I push a button and then food shows up at my house. There's no evolutionary pressure to change because I push a button.
It's right here.
Yeah, exactly. There's no evolutionary pressure for me to change. You're like, why are testosterone levels down? Because we're away from the survival scenario. That's the reason why. You don't have a reason. You don't wake up in the morning and be like, I better go fucking deadlift, or I'm not going to be able to kill this lion later. You don't have a lion to kill. You sat at your office today. You're drinking a $13 cup of coffee that's filled with sugar. And
like
then
a cheesecake in a fucking cup.
You're correct. You have a cheesecake in a cup, and then you have no evolutionary pressure to do anything near the nearest survival scenario, and then you are arguing about whether or not it's a good thing that Elon Musk bought Twitter. That is not something your ancestors were not arguing about that. Your ancestors were considering, do we go to the water hole and kill the fucking gazelle and take on that lion? That's what they were arguing about. That's why they had higher testosterone levels than you, because they were closer to the
men and women.
Yes.
Men and women. I just made a post about that. I said, somebody was like, oh, dude, we were in line at Costco, my wife and I, right? So like women and men, actually, everybody looks at my wife and they're like, fuck, holy shit. And we had a shopping at Costco, right? They'll give you a flat of muffins. It's like 800 muffins in this thing, right? So it's like, there's all these muffins and like crab's legs and all kinds of shit in this thing. It was just like an awesome cart, right? It's like the best cart ever. And this lady's behind us and she looks at my wife and she looks at me and she's like, oh, well, there's no way you're eating that. She's like, no way. Like, I eat like a salad and 3 almonds and then I lick a fucking apple for dessert. Like that's her meal. And she's like, you don't eat like that. That must be for someone else. And we didn't eat we went, no, this is a normal fucking week for us. No way. And then she goes on and on about what she does. And I'm like, that's because you're doing jazzercise, man. Like, you're worried about being bulky. My wife she squats 225 for reps and she's $120 and she looks like a fitness model. Like, I'm like, stop thinking you're going to be bulky, get fucking strong. Like, and that's the issue, is they think that they have to, it's dietary. That's only part of the equation. If you want to be fit and strong, you are going to accomplish 2 things. Number one, you are building a suit of armor. That is going to keep you alive more effectively than any pill out there. You stack muscle on your system, dude. Fuck oxidative stress. I'm not like Dorian Yates is a friend of mine. That guy was a monster.
Yeah.
Right. But he's not like that anymore. And he wasn't like, I want to be, 290 shredded. The oxidative stress level on your heart that's this big is massive. Be 5'8", So that's one thing. But if you're fit and healthy, that's normal, And I said that to her. I go, they're always like, you're not normal. You and your wife aren't normal. No, actually, we are the fucking norm. Because if you didn't look and move and function and think like we did, you didn't survive.
Yeah. So if you go 2,000 years ago and the Serengeti or in North America, this is what people were like. They were eating, high protein diets, and exactly right. I see exactly what you're saying. Like closer to the survival scenario. That was exactly. And then when you talk about this before, if you ever talk to like a really good strength coach, what they're going to explain to you is, in order to building muscle mass, the point is to keep you from injury. It's not actually for you to get the beach body. It's so that when you talk to a strength coach for like a college football team or an NFL team, they're going to tell you the abdominal muscles. I'm sitting here trying to protect the visceral sac underneath this. All these organs that are these abdominal muscles are there to protect us. The joints, the muscles around my joints are there to protect my joints. And same thing with my neck. And then also with the flexibility that you get from these things, it's supposed to help you avoid injury. Right? Correct. So why would natural selection, we're going to go back to natural selection again. Natural selection gives you this ability to go work out, to work hard, and then you avoid injury by becoming stronger and more limber. Exactly. And that's why, like, even in the Spartan Company, like that's our fitness, basically 1-year coaching program. Like, this isn't a pitch or anything. I'm just saying, like, it's like, I won't even, if somebody's like, I don't really, do you have like a business and mindset and relationship kind of coaching program? I go, yeah, it's a Spartan Company. Yeah, but I don't really want a workout program. Then I'm not for you. If you aren't going to train, I'm not coaching you, period. If you are, like, it is fucking part of my program. I don't care if you've never trained before. I'm gonna stomp on your trachea until you're training, so you build some muscle so you can handle shit. It allows you to take a hit. The doctor said to me, the only reason I'm still here after they pulled all that stuff out of my chest is because of how I went in. He said, you would not be here. You would not have survived. When they went in, they didn't even have time to ask my wife, because she was the signer on my life, basically. Yeah. They didn't even have time while they were waiting. They put me out for surgery. Like, I still remember this. I kissed my wife and I'm like, holy fuck. Like, I'm starting at the top of the food chain. They're doing thoracic surgery on me. Like, holy shit. Right. Like, I didn't break my thumb or hurt my wrist. Like, hey, we're going to go inside your chest cavity and see what the fuck's going on in there. Well, it turned out this mass was stuck to my aorta. So a heart pumps about 5 liters of blood a minute, right? Give or take, on a healthy adult. And so they nicked it. I didn't even know until I looked at my med report. And this is just the other day I looked at this part, and I lost over 1 liter of blood. That's a fuck ton. And so I lost over 1 liter of blood. It took forever to get this out, and they didn't have time to tell my wife, we got to take your husband's lung. I woke up with garden hoses coming out of my side, higher than fuck. I'm entertaining as shit, by the way, when I'm high. I had no idea. I told my wife, I gave her the camera, and I said, no matter what happens, babe, film everything. Wow. And that could have worked out real shitty for me. Yeah. So it was one of those things that, thank God, the first thing I asked for, I don't even remember, was my wedding ring. Like, what you have programmed in your brain is always there. So if you are that person, adversity does not change a fucking thing about a human being. It exposes who you really are. It's that simple. And so I always believed, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I walk the talk. After this, Michael, I know I walk the talk, and it's not an arrogant statement. It's just fucking real. So I remember getting up and looking at my chest going, holy shit. Like, they were like this big, and they're filled with my blood going into a box with more of my blood. And I got this tube on the wall, and the doctor takes a knee and he goes, listen, and I'm still like just in and out, right? And he's like, listen, I'm just letting you know, surgery went well, but we had to, unfortunately, take your left lung too. And I was kind of like, it's on video. And I go, did you give me a new one? Like, I was just like, boom, yeah. Right? 30 minutes after surgery, I said to the people, the nurses, the everybody that was in there, I said, get me out of this bed. I'm still all just spinning. And they're like, no, you just had thoracic surgery. This is what they said to me. They're like, you are going to have to change how you are. You're going to have to move slower. You have to accept that you're not going to be athletic anymore. You're not going to be able to run and jump and do all this stuff anymore. You're different. It's okay. Like, at least you're alive. And I said, you have two choices.
you can either help me up or you can pick me up off the fucking floor. But either way, I'm getting out of this bed right now. And I start moving to get out of the bed. And there I am. She, like, my wife has the whole thing, me getting out of bed, walking laps around my my little room, my recovery room. And I was there for a week. And by the end of the week, I was doing like 100 laps around the nurses station. You know, I'd come back in, wipe off all their stats on the whiteboard, piss them right the hell off. And I'd write down how many laps I did and what my oxygen stats were. Because I'm like, I'm not staying here.
Well, so what were the symptoms that led up to you needing to go to have thoracic heart surgery or thoracic surgery?
Sure. Yeah. So get this. They labeled me as COVID, by the way.
Okay.
Fuck all those guys. 5 tests, 4 were immunoglobulin, which is, I don't care what they say. That's accurate. It is chemically accurate. You know, they give you a PCR test. It actually forces the virus to replicate. So, and it's got a million false negatives, right? It's like AIDS. It mimics so many diseases. But there's a lot going on, by the way, on like this whole, you know, mRNA vaccine and like AZT. There's a lot of similarities, man. It was brought to the market in like 3 weeks.
So AZT as the HIV treatment.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of similarities. Like I looked at that and I'm like, you fucking guys, man. Which the symptoms of taking AZT are immunosuppression.
Yeah.
I'm like, fucking knuckleheads. So it's a very simple with this mRNA thing. So, and that was just kind of a pivot because it's very, very like it's sketchy, right?
Sure.
But so I went to the hospital, 106-degree fever. It was one of those things that I'm not a doctor guy. I love doctors when they keep you alive. I don't like going when I get the sniffles, right?
Sure.
So all of a sudden I woke my wife up and I was having brutal pain, Michael. Like, for me to say brutal, like I've had, you know, I mean, obviously I've had some pretty crazy shit happen to me and I just kind of go through it. But I was like, I hurt from literally the middle of my chest down to the point where it was inescapable. And I can't even explain it. It was more than aching. It was crippling. I couldn't walk and my temperature, nothing would knock it down. I'm like, something's really wrong with me, man. So I said to my wife, it was probably, I don't know, 1:30 in the morning. And I go, you got to take me to the hospital. Fuck, let's go. And so we're like, okay, we get there. They check me, 106. I'm like, holy shit, that's brain damage, right? It turns into mush. And so they get me in ICU, get me all taken care of. I mean, long story short, they kept me in ICU for 6 days. I have no recollection of my wife being there, Michael. And she was like, I was there every day. None. Yeah, it was creepy. And they labeled me as COVID. They tested me. All 5 tests in my report are negative.
Yeah.
But they kept saying COVID-like. But there's something called the remdesivir protocol, basically, where they go, you come in for something that's not COVID. And then they go, here, you know, you have COVID. And they put you in ICU. And they took my phone. They took my clothes. They took my wallet. They took everything. They wouldn't let me communicate with anybody. They locked my wife outside. When I was sitting there, on oxygen, breathing about 500 ml a breath, which is way low. They were like, you can't be here. You have to leave. And I was like, that's my wife, man. She's going to stay. And this is what the nurse, she didn't miss a beat. She goes, well, then I'll inform the doctor that you're checking yourself out. I'm like, are you fucking crazy? So they kicked her out of the hospital, locked her out, and she's outside hysterical, thinking she's never going to see her husband again because I'm going to die. And like, this is fucked up medical system.
So they put you
for the next 6.
They put you on remdesivir, which is the antiviral. They put you on that from the gate because they didn't know what was wrong with you. And
they labeled me as COVID because it makes money, about 540 grand, right, per patient.
So what? So this causes a problem thoracically. What is it exactly?
Tumor. So it accelerates cancer growth. So
remdesivir
like
because okay, got it.
Yeah, you take someone like me with I hesitate to use the word history, but that's just gone through something before, let's just say. And so there might be a predisposition, a presupposition that's going to happen, right?
Yes.
And so they gave it to me and I came out of the hospital. I checked myself out because when they put me on remdesivir, I actually started getting worse. All of a sudden my stats were going down. Like it was real bad. Like in 49 years, Michael, I've never ever thought, holy fuck, I'm going to die.
Well, I'm confused. What did they think you had? And then what did you actually have? So obviously if you didn't have a virus and they give you remdesivir, it's not going to help you. So
nothing.
Okay. So what pneumonia. What was, so you had pneumonia. That's what was causing the pain.
Brutal pneumonia.
The 106 temperature. Got it.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Brutal pneumonia. Yeah. Great. That's the right question. So brutal pneumonia. And of course it's a great, slide into COVID because it's when everybody was making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And so hospitals are rewarded for it. And
you're in the state of California at this point?
No, I was here in Texas.
Okay, got it.
Now, California would have been worse. I'd probably be dead. It's shitty, but I'd probably be dead because the remdesivir protocol, if you look it up, and I can send you some cool shit about it, but it's a 10-day protocol. Day 9 is when everybody dies.
Oh, wow.
That's fucked up. So I watched a doctor and a nurse argue in front of me at the end of my bed on whether or not to put me on a ventilator. Now, we know the ventilator is a kiss of death for the most part, right? So I was like, no, you're not going to do it. But I remember texting my wife at about 2 a.m. saying, babe, I'm not going to make it. And it was real for me. Like, I was terrified. And I'm like, fuck. So I was giving her everything, like how to run our entire life, every single fucking thing I could think of. I'm like, here, do this. And she texts me back, I can't do this life without you. I need you. And I got fucking angry, not at her, at everything going on with me I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? No, I'm not done. I'm not done. So I got pissed off. And then she came in and she said, there's a couple of fleeting little things, but I remember she said afterwards, she told me, she's like, they're not making you any better. You need to get out of here. I don't think they're helping. I think they're hurting you. So I checked myself out. It took 9 hours to leave the hospital because they kept lying about stuff. And they wouldn't give me oxygen unless I got vaccinated, which I did not do, but they gave me, because I had to be on oxygen. I was on 5 liters of oxygen. The flow was high.
Yeah.
And so you understand that, right? 5 liters is heavy, man.
Yeah.
And so I went home on oxygen. And the next day, if you look at my account or anything, there's video of me nonstop. I was a skinny little guy, oxygen cannula, my machine. I called it my little blue buddy. And I would do anything I could. It would take me 5 minutes to recover from doing shoulder presses with 15 pounds. Like, I was just getting crushed, but I'm like, I'm not going to slow down. So I'm not going to stop go ahead.
So there's a tumor that grows that caused them to take off the left lung. What exactly? You said something about a nick.
So 3 weeks, I'm out of the hospital. Right?
Okay.
And I get this crazy back pain. And it's like a side stitch, but up behind your shoulder blade. Everybody that's you've played basketball, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, I can't fucking get it. But it was like an 11 out of 10. And I had my wife with the Theragun and digging her elbow in and anything. So I started thinking maybe it's a neck, like disc issue. Like, what is going on? But it was relentless. And then it went away. And then it came back about 2 days later. And again, I couldn't even breathe. It was so painful. And I said, yeah, you know what? I'm due for a quick follow-up. So let's go see. They took an x-ray of me at urgent care. And I mean, I've seen, 100,000 x-rays in my life, at least. And we walk around the corner and it's on this digital view box at the end of the hall. And he goes, I want to show you something. Come here. And my wife was worried, right? Because I had to go back. I was off oxygen and I had to go back on. So something's not right, And I looked at the view box and I could see it from 10 feet away, Michael. It was huge, just big, giant mass, right? And I'm like, oh, fuck. And he goes, you need to go to ER right now. And I went to ER. They kept me for 3 days trying to find a surgeon. And they were going to send me out of state because the halls were lined, the tents outside filled with COVID people and all this stuff. And then, I believe in God. If somebody does, they do. If they don't, they don't. It has no effect on me. But I started going, fuck, I'm not ready to go yet. So I just started thanking God for finding me a surgeon and keeping me healthy and giving me another 50 years. And all of a sudden I get this knock on my door. I shit you not. Trevor Bachmeyer? Like, yeah, just letting you, and they had just told me they're going to send me out of state. Just letting you know your ride to, Dallas Presby is going to be here in 30 minutes for your surgery tomorrow. I'm like, what? And they took me in and they're like, we have to go in and take it out. There's no other. I thought it was an abscess. And nope, turned out it was this big giant mass. And I was in surgery for 45 minutes longer than I was supposed to be. My wife just pacing the fuck out of the wall, out of the floor, right? Like, brutal. But that's how they found it.
It's in the lung. The tumor's in the lung.
It was between the lung. It was all intertwined with the lung, right? Yeah. The lobes of the lung on the left side and part of the back wall of my rib cage.
Okay.
And it had wrapped around and gone over where the aorta is and part of the trachea and everything down through here, like everything it could. It was stuck to the diaphragm. And there's what's like station 8. There's a lymph node down here called station 8 lymph node. They had to take that out because it was giant, like all kinds of stuff. And they were like, this is fucking cancer, man. And it wasn't there 3 weeks before that. And I made sure I copied all my records because who knows what the fuck these guys are going to do, right? So I kept everything. And I have x-rays from before, tons, nothing. So it grew in 3 weeks.
That's crazy.
Dude, it was this fucking big.
Did you keep it after they took it out?
The tumor?
Yeah.
They took it out in pieces.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. And then, of course, my lung, because my lung was destroyed.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
now I understand.
You're never going to do anything again, is what they said. They're like, you're not going to run. I came home from the hospital And my wife, after about 2 hours, kissed my kids and see my, get my life back in order because I'd been in and out of the hospital for like 8 weeks. And I said, we're gonna work out. And she goes, okay, let's go. So I strapped a sled to me and I put a 45-pound plate on it, 20 feet of strap, and I tied it to my weight belt. And the driveway is like this big old country circular driveway. It's like 400 meters. And I said, I'm just going to walk because it's all I could do, right? There's big holes in me, like giant incisions all over the place. And she's like, what do you want me to do? I said, come get me when I can't do it anymore. And I just said, I'm going to walk until I collapse. And that was day one. And I haven't missed a day since.
So you've been able to increase the lung capacity from your right lung in order to compensate. That's okay. I understand, man.
I made a post actually about that of me doing 4,500. And people are like, holy shit, even with 2 lungs, people can't do that. I'm like, yeah, watch, pull this thing out like a giant bong, but it was awesome.
Again,
but I mean, I run all the time now.
Again, we're going back to evolutionary pressure and natural selection. That's why you have 2 lungs, 2 hemispheres of the brain, 2 eyes, 2 ears. This is a function of redundancy and survivability. Yeah. Yep. It's amazing.
Yeah. And that's what I looked at, right? Is I went like, it's my choice to do everything I can to be here or to not. It's not somebody else's decision for me to stop trying unless I believe what they're telling me. But I didn't. And I refused. I'm like, I'm not listening to you guys. I've been down this road before. And I'm not going to quit. I've lived in my car. I've been broke. I've had cancer. I've gone through so many things, and I've come out the other side, not unscathed, with a lesson. And I just took fucking notes, and I didn't do it again.
You mentioned you lived in your car for 4 months at one point. What was that?
I lived in my car for probably about 2 months, but yeah, I lived in my car. A 1991 Acura Legend. What driver's window would barely go up. I slept with a screwdriver under my arm. I was broke as fuck.
What was the reason behind that?
I had nothing. I was an idiot. I just blew all my money and
this is after
I was an asshole of a person.
This is after you found out you had cancer the first time, then blew.
This is a long time ago. Yeah, I was just a train wreck. And so yeah, I used to steal groceries to survive and sneak into the gym and grab toothbrushes and take showers. And it was terrible.
Wow. You have a medical degree. Can you talk about where'd you get your medical degree? What is it in? What were you practicing?
I went to school in Manitoba.
Okay.
I was trauma surgery, right? So I did that. I didn't like it. And the only reason is because 6 months onto the job, I had to tell somebody that their 9-year-old son didn't make it. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I spent 3 hours in a janitor's closet bawling my eyes out after that. I'm like, I can't fucking do this. I'm the Grim Reaper, and I think you have to be you have to be able to disconnect in order to do that. I don't, you know who Bedros Keuilian is?
No.
Okay. So Bedros Keuilian owns Fit Body Boot Camp. He's a really, really good friend of mine. And he's fucking savage Armenian, like came from nothing, built this huge empire. He's a great, Wes Watson, right? So Wes Watson's another great friend of mine, right?
Yeah.
So Wes and Bedros are really good friends. And he is like, the reason I bring him up is you're a savage. Everybody is a savage. We learn how to not to be. Men, women, it doesn't matter. You are, look at fucking toddlers when they want a toy.
Yeah.
They will lose their shit. So we're like that. It's inside you. We learn to mute it because adults go, you have ADD. Fuck, Michael, if they would have labeled me, I'd be ADD. It would just like herding cats in my fucking head.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, no, but it's because they're trying to bring people down to their slow ass fucking level. Like you look at lion cubs, bear cubs, they all play hard. That's normal. So it's like what I'm talking about is like, you're a savage inside anyway. And all that happened was with medicine, I can't disconnect. I can't be the person where I'm like, I'm a savage, but I'm a savage to help somebody. I want you to fucking survive.
Yeah.
So I told this guy, he basically pulled out a checkbook and says, I don't care how much it costs, save my son. And I'm like, that's the day I realized that you cannot buy another day. I don't care how much fucking money you have. You can't buy another day, man. So you make sure the days count because you are trading the one bank account that's shrinking for the moments you create in that day. And so I went, I don't want to do this. And I was getting migraines and sick. I was on something called Fiornal, which is like old school migraine medication. And like, I was a mess. And somebody said, oh, you should try my chiropractor. I was like, get the fuck out of here, man. Those guys are quacks. You're going to break my neck. And I went and I was like, fine. I went. He spent like an hour with me, like all kinds of things, right? And I felt so much better when I got off this table. Now I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo on any of them, but they get a little fanatical sometimes. So I'm like, hey, you guys get a little weird. But at the same time, it helped. And I went, there's more to this. So I got into sports med and PT, and I went, how can I help somebody while they're here instead of when they've been categorized as a catastrophe, right? And put them back together. How can I keep that from happening to the best of my ability? And I just went down the road on that.
One of the things I think is interesting, and you brought up this point, is that a lot of times when we talk about depression or attention deficit disorder, it's funny that these things are easily cured by Marine Corps boot camp. And
right?
and I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be funny. When I was in Air Force Basic, and I'm again nowhere near as hard as Marine Corps boot camp. I will tell, or when I was in survival school and hadn't eaten in several days, and they were chasing me down and trying to beat my ass, I was not depressed. There was no feeling of depression, right? I promise you, if you had checked my testosterone serum during that period, it would have been through the roof. And also, I will tell you that a lot of the imbalance is a great book on this called Spark. I forgot who the author is, but he talks about how you can level out the levels of serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine in your brain just by walking. Like Homo sapiens were created to walk long distances. And that's why really, really smart people, when they say, oh, I have to go make a big decision, I need to go take a walk. That's the reason where that comes from. It's just interesting to me that a lot of the times the solution for these things is a physical boot camp, some stressful situation, Marine Corps boot camp. But the reason why I think it's a problem is because it's much easier when you put someone on Paxil to take them away from the nature that they came from. Like for me, obviously, you see Evolutionary Psychology, the book behind me.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. The thing is, I understand, when you understand where we come from, now I understand what the rules are and the components in the machine that I'm embodying for these 80, 90, 100 years. And I understand what my ancestors did, and I understand that all of my proclivities aided somehow in survival in the last 300,000 years. For those of you who don't know, your mammals are about 178 million years, hominids are about 3 million years, Homo sapiens about 300,000 years, and then the agricultural revolution about 11,700 years ago, the end of the last ice age. So from that standpoint, I understand whatever I do or enjoy, sugar, salt, fat, enjoy women with a certain hip to waist ratio, signs of beauty, higher sexual selection, higher status, these things had to aid in survival in some case. So if I go back to that, then all of a sudden depression goes away. When I go back to that, all of a sudden ADD goes away. That's one of these things that's really difficult. But in order to do that, what do I have to do? I have to recognize I'm a fucking hairless murder ape. And there's a lot of people that don't want to do that. They want to believe here's animals and then here's humans, and natural selection counts for everyone else, but it doesn't count for us.
We are the same.
We are the same. Exactly.
We're the fucking same.
And so when you...
And I love that you said that, man. I love that you fucking said that, because that's how we're designed.
Yeah.
Right. Like I came up with 5 rules, and my entire life is governed by 5 rules. That's it. Like complexity kills everything. People get real complicated. Like you said, Paxil. I had a patient of mine. He came in one time. This guy, Dan, I probably just violated HIPAA in some way, but Dan came in. He was my patient for, holy shit, Michael, probably 5 years. And he's like sharp guy, like Wells Fargo, like moving up the chain, like hunting for like the CEO position, right? Like he wants it. And all of a sudden he had coffee down his shirt and his tie's all fucked up. And he goes, Trev, I don't know what's wrong with me. He goes, I'm like feeling clumsy. Like I'm really screwed up. And I go, well, that's not good. So I start checking for brain lesions and things, like checking motor skills and everything. And I'm like, dude, you're way off. And I go through. So I, of course, triage, right? Don't look, when you hear hoofbeats, it's not zebras, it's horses, right? So I started looking for things. And it turns out he ran out of Paxil 5 days before that.
He's
5 days.
He's having withdrawals from Paxil.
Correct. And he was fucked. And I said, he was on Paxil for like 5-6 years. And I said, there's the problem. He goes, holy shit, I don't want to take that. I go, no. I go, it's the only time I'll say this. Get back on it. We need to strip you down slowly. Otherwise, you're messing with neurotransmitters, man. How long things stay in like gap junctions, right? And like all this, like you don't fuck with your brain ever. And so I was like, and he cleared up instantly the second he got back on it. But that showed me the designer brain chemistry, right?
Yeah.
Like the Zoloft's, the Paxils, all this stuff that do that. And it scared the shit out of me even more, because I went, you are like, you know how people get over like you don't catch depression. If you said, Trev, dude, I'm really, really depressed. And I don't think you would ever even say it anyway, but let's say you did. I'm not going to brush up against you and I'm going to piss off a bunch of people saying this. I can't catch it.
Right.
It's not a fucking virus. And people are like, it's real. People commit suicide. That's not what I'm saying. they aren't getting the help that actually will help them.
Yeah.
Like if you have any white space on your calendar, you are asking for problems. That's just a matter of fact. You want to get rid of most of the shit going on in your life, busy up your day with things that have a productivity end, right? They have some kind of end that is like finite. Like I did this, I accomplished this, put in something else. I did this, I accomplished this. That's why you feel better. You get these little dopamine hits.
So consider like this, again, I recommend the book Spark. If you have dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, oxytocin, there's several other neurochemicals. And so let's just say I take Paxil or I take Zoloft or I take, what's the other one? The big Prozac. So let's say I take one of those things. What I'm going to get is an increase in some of those positive neurochemicals, but not in a natural combination. I'm going to get where one of them is at 100% receptivity, and the other ones are just not quite where they're supposed to be.
So the ratio's way off.
The ratios are wrong, and so I'm going to get an unnatural level. And it's going to be a short-term solution for whatever I'm dealing with bipolar disorder or whatever, and it's going to be a short-term solution. The point is that Charles Darwin, evolution has this normal or natural ability for your body to start firing that way through walking, through exercising. Because again, when you think about it, going back to your ancestors 50,000 years ago, which is the one who was going to be depressed? The one who went out and killed the meat to feed the starving tribe, or the one who stayed in the cave and didn't do anything? Of course, your body's not going to
overthink garbage, right?
Correct.
Like human default thinking is negative.
Yes.
Right. So if you change that, that's why when somebody goes, oh, dude, I have all these, like, I'm just really depressed, or I'm really angry. I'm really like, do you understand you fucking control the things going through your head? Like, I really, like, most people, like, we have what, like 60,000 thoughts a day? That's not the problem. What's disconcerting is most people have the same thoughts today as they had yesterday. Yeah. And then they wonder why they feel like shit. Like, you keep thinking the dumb things. Like pop open a book, start doing something, get productive, challenge yourself. Like I get over things by doing a lot of little challenges. Like even a workout, I started doing this 100 workout thing where I do 100 reps. And so you get it because you train, but some people hear 100 reps, they go, oh, that's not that much. Fucking try it.
Yeah.
Brutal. So I do 100, and that's not the warm up, right? And I do 100 reps of whatever it is that I've put together in this system. And I was actually using myself as a guinea pig because somebody else, I do these 100-day challenges, right? With people just for fun. And I'm like, oh, fuck, 100 reps, 100 days. All right, I'll try it. Holy shit, Michael. Brutal. But at the same time, you know what I'm thinking about in the workout? I'm going to beat this thing and I'm coming out the other side. I wasn't thinking, I think I'm going to stop. I'm really feeling sad. I'm not really, this workout's making me feel less of a person. No, I'm looking at it going, dude, I'm going to murder this thing. Even if it's a struggle, because it's occupying a different section of my brain. And if you step on the gas and keep reinforcing, like you said, if you give that the right hit all the time, you're going to do it more. It's like an addiction in the right direction.
Yeah. And because of natural selection, you're going to get it in the right ratios.
Right.
The natural solution to this is the one that evolution gave you, as opposed to the one that Johnson & Johnson gives you. That's the point.
The right pharmacy, the better quality, right target organ, and available 24 hours a day.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So can you fill in the gap here between you being a medical doctor, trauma surgeon, then you stop that, and then we get to the point where the 52 muscles in the hip, in the spine, and because I mean there are infinite hacks here. Where did you learn these hacks? Where can you fill in the gap there?
Sure. That's so what I started doing was when I came out of Chiro college, right? And I started doing, they're like, oh, bone on nerve. And I went, okay, physiologically not possible. So let's give me another solution, right? So I got it because if you have a bone on a nerve, you're fucking paralyzed. So it's different. So, and I'm like, stop telling people that your dogma's wrong. And I went, okay, something's not working. I don't understand how you can, like, if you and I are working on flexibility, right? And you're like, okay, Trev, let's have this challenge. We're going to see who can get to be able to do the splits first, right? Over the next year, right? And so every day we're pushing. There's not like a 5-second burst of a stretch and then we do it again tomorrow. We're never going to be able to do the splits. It's time under tension, just like training, right? Well, I started looking at that going, how is an adjustment over time, doing it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, changing the physiology and changing structure? I don't see that. It's not consistent enough. It's time under tension. It's just like working out. If I do one curl, I'm not going to look any different if that's all I do. So I started putting that together and I went, what is controlling the joints? What is controlled by the nerves? How does the system work? And then I started looking at biomechanics a lot and kinesiology and basically the physics of movement. I went, all right, This pulls this way, this pulls this way. We're making horsepower and it's crossing joints. And if it crosses the joint wrong, I mean, I came up with these laws of organic movement. And one of them basically says that, you know, a joint that has horsepower crossing it inconsistently or incorrectly causes damage. Right. So I went, well, fuck, let me just change how things cross the joint. And essentially my clinics, they were labs, right? I got to work on patients. I just threw everything at them and wanted to see what would work. And so I started building all these protocols and hacks, and the more effective they got, the more I would try and fine tune them. And then I started going, okay, I need to do this better. I need to do this better. And I started building this basically mainframe of information on how to address certain things in the shortest period of time possible. I went, how do I time collapse so people don't have to spend, you know, months and years with their doctor if it's avoidable? And so I started building them together, and I started just testing them out on people, and it would work. So I went, how do I make it better? It was always, as soon as something would work, I went, how do I make it better? How do I go faster? How do I do less and make it more effective and deliver an even better result? Not how do I do less and get a shittier result, right? So, and that's just how it came to fruition. And I just kept stacking on that for like a decade and a half.
It just became a subject matter expert and all. And and the thing is, you do a lot of videos on the key problems, which for a lot of people is going to be lower back, knee pain. It's going to be shoulder pain. One of the ones you got me with, you completely helped me with, is I've been having. I went bowling the other day. Went to a charity event back during the Super Bowl, so it's almost been a year. And there's this almost like a lightning strike right here in this tendon right here. And I was like, well, I've done something to this tendon because I just went bowling and it just hasn't healed. And then you were talking about, no, dude, it's grip strength. It's actually this right here. So I've been doing the things where I put 80% of my weight and just hang there for a long time for like 2 minutes.
That's ugly though, right?
It is. And you don't realize how brutal some of these, people, when I say put a tennis ball in your plantar fascia for 2 minutes, it doesn't sound as horrible and as grisly as it ends up being when you do it. And it wakes you up too. That will wake you up. That tennis ball will wake you up.
It is humbling, man.
Yeah. Can you talk about this one? So I'm going to skip ahead because I want to get to some specific ones. The one
whatever you need, man.
Because this is a problem for a lot of people. Like, you know, when you get older and heavier, the one between the 12th rib and the iliac crest, that muscle right here.
Yeah.
Quadratus. The one side shortened than the other one. Can you talk about that one specifically as far as lower back pain is concerned?
Yeah, that's common. So the wild thing about the QL is it's not people. There's going to be a lot of arguments, and I'm probably going to get a bunch of net messages going, I don't fucking believe that, but that's fine. You can't really consciously control it because it supports the 12th rib on heavy, deep inspiration, right? So when you get a side stitch, by the way, I tell people all the time, you get a stitch in your side, it's not here where the problem is. Take your thumb and shove it into that quadratus lumborum and take 2 or 3 deep breaths. Boom, side stitch gone, because that's causing the fucking problem, right? So, but when one is shorter than the other, it does 2 things. It translates your torso, right, to one side, and it gives you a pelvic hike, right? All this kind of stuff. But the issue becomes it also locks up how your hips move. So in a world where we primarily do this, right? We sit and we hunch over our phones and our hip flexors get really short, pissed off, and tight. This is just asking for problems because it's trying to do the opposite, except it's not going to win. So when something like that happens, you want it to be stronger, but you want it to be loose. And this is like the muscles like this, like it's this giant strap. It's so fucking strong. And so you want to make sure that it's doing everything symmetrically. And that's, people sit like this, right? They thug out and gangster out in their their car or whatever, and they do that in a couch, and it causes, if you sit in any position for too long, what are you doing?
You're changing the shape of those muscles.
Yeah, you're 2 minutes, right? And everybody laughs. They go, why 2 minutes? Because it takes 90 seconds to change viscoelastic properties of tissue. So I went an extra 30, right? Because muscle spindles fire and they resist you. So I went, just go 2 minutes, and it is the shittiest, longest 2 minutes you'll ever do. However, the result is infinitely more rapid. So with the QL, I tell people there's 3 things I would have people do. And there's number 1 is hang, just unload the tissue. I tell people to sit cross-legged Indian style, right? You sit cross-legged Indian style and you do 2 minutes with one leg over, 2 minutes with the other leg over. Take your hand, put it on the inside of this thigh and reach over.
Yeah.
Hang out like that for 2 minutes and then do the same thing on the other side. If you just did that, you'd probably even out your hips.
Yeah. It's something I've definitely noticed because my legs are not the same length after ACL reconstruction.
Oh, yeah. Which leg?
On my right knee. It's a little shorter. Yeah. So that's the one. That's the one that's this hip kind of comes up and yeah.
Hikes up, right?
Yeah, exactly right. That's it. The other problem I had
We gotta
was
talk afterwards.
yeah. The piriforma.
Piriformis?
So this is the piriformis. Is this what causes sciatic pain?
Yeah, unless it's a disc issue.
Okay.
So if it's a disc issue, that's a whole different animal.
So this is
then
anybody, because I have talked to a ton of people that have sciatica. Can you talk about the sciatic pain, the disc issue, and the piriforma? What causes that, and what are the solutions for that?
Sure. Yeah. So piriformis is like a two-bellied muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Is the outside of the glute?
Yeah, it's kind of buried deep under the high portion of the glute, right?
Okay.
So the nerves exit the lumbar spine, the sacral plexus, lumbar plexus, right? They come out, they form these big nerves. One of them is the sciatic nerve. It's like the size of your pinky, like it's a big fucker.
Yeah.
And it does all kinds of stuff. And anyone that's ever, like, first of all, anyone that's taking a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball or a softball or a bowling ball, whatever you're fucking doing, and you're digging on your hip to try and get that to release, stop it. Because that muscle is only about this far under the tissue. And I tell everybody this, I go, if you think that's going to help you, I love that, but you're just trading noise, right? You're making noise in a muscle so you don't feel the noise of the nerve. Does that make sense? So it's like foam rolling is great, sort of, depending on what it is. But I always tell people this, take your thumb, grab your funny bone, your ulnar nerve, and just grind the shit out of it and tell me if that feels good. Pretty much what you're fucking doing, right? So instead, that piriformis sits like this. The sciatic nerve sits in between, and when it spazzes out or it's really short and tight, it cranks down on that thing. Well, then that sends referral pain, right? Right through the hip, the leg, down into the foot. It can give you foot drop. It can give you so many things that look like a back.
Well, so you can get foot drop from this. So for the people who don't know, like that's what happened to Jalen Smith. He was the linebacker who played for he played at Notre Dame, I think, and then he went to play for the Cowboys. He had foot drop. The first year he couldn't play because he had ACL reconstruction, which caused him he had some kind of nervous damage in his right knee, right leg, which caused his right foot to stop working. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, and it screws you up because you lose dorsiflexion, right?
Yeah.
Of the foot. So all of that is important, especially with a knee, right? Like there's so many things that come into the mechanics of the knee with that. But anytime I look at if there's a problem, I go, what is telling it to do that? Because if all you do is look at the problem, that's great. And I'm all for relieving the pain and the issue. But if it keeps coming back, that's a big red flag that says there's more going on, right? So a lot of times with back pain is always, people misunderstand back pain. They always think it's going to be back pain. Most of the time it's a sciatic issue. And if not, it's a QL issue. And you know what's wild is when people do these like McGill, right? They're like, I did my McGill 3 and it made everything great. Yeah, really? A fucking shocker. It's not McGill's exercises. It's not strengthening your core. It's not doing all these magic things to make your back pain go away. It's moving and moving properly. Because right now, like I'll take you, right? You said your piriformis is acting up. It's tightening up. It's causing the sciatic issues. Well, your brain thinks how you move right now is normal. So every time you and I, let's say we go to the gym later, or we go shoot hoops or whatever it is, well, now you're going to move and you're going to get stronger and faster, but you're building on a platform that's like this. So you're just reinforcing a bad position. So that's where I see a lot of epic fails in rehabbing people is they go, okay, we're going to do this, cookie cutter, right? Except they haven't addressed the fact that they're looking like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Straighten out the platform and then build strength, and your problems go away infinitely more rapidly. You know, so with the piriformis, you don't grind on it, but there's a really kick-ass stretch. I'll send you the video just because I said I would. I have it here on my phone. I'll rip it out to you. It's dope. And it's not really how most people do it, right? They sit figure 4, lean forward. They wind up stretching like, you know, the glute and part of their back, and they go, it's not helping. I go, it's because that's not the problem. Yeah. Right. And with the disc issue, by the way, the easiest way is like what do people do, right? They pull their knees to their chest. They bend over, try and stretch out the low back. That's all palliative stuff. It doesn't help or fix the problem. It actually makes it worse. The problem, the way you described it before the problem was, again, going back to evolution and natural selection, when there's an injury in a certain part of your body, the muscles in that part of the body clamp down Self-splint.
And that clamping, very much so, like when you said you had 106-degree fever, right? This is your body's ability to it's pushing white blood cells to different plates.
Kill the bug.
And it's killing the bug by increasing your body temperature. This is an evolutionary adaptation. In this case, the evolutionary adaptation is if you have a spinal injury, all these muscles back here are going to tighten up. Same thing with your shoulder, your arm. These muscles are going to tighten up in order to protect that area or that joint from further damage. But in this case, it never stops tightening up, and now it becomes, this is the normal way to be, and these muscles are now clamping down on the sciatic nerve. The piriform muscles are clamping down the sciatic nerve, which is causing the continuous pain.
Yeah, and then it spasms because it hurts, right?
Yeah.
And then we avoid it, so it's this self-propagating site. It's like anything, right? If it hurts, you kind of, oh shit, I don't want to do anything, so you juke out what you normally would do, and that causes more problems because now that becomes what? More tight, more pissed off, contracts even more, and then it gets weak, and you have all these issues that you're actually layering on this thing that don't need to be there. Like I've seen disc surgeries are a big one with people that get disc surgery in their lumbar spine. I go, I'm fine with it if you need it, especially if it's sequestered and there's like a big chunk, the nucleus is squirted out and there's all kinds of problems. But for the most part, get into extension 4, 5, 6, 10 times a fucking day on the floor and get the disc, the center, that nucleus pulposus to migrate towards the front. Problem solved. And it's counterintuitive because it hurts first.
Yeah.
And most people aren't willing to do that, which is why surgery and pills are such an easy sell.
For sure.
Because it's like, oh, it's instant. Anyone that's had surgery, you, me, we know surgery is not instant.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not injured. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing I want to talk about was whenever I'm injured, I don't mind doing any workout, but you talked about deadlifts. And the importance of deadlifts. And I know a lot of people just like me, they're like, this is the scary one, right? Because the deadlift is like, oh man, I'm gonna fuck up my back or something to that effect. And I found myself like playing basketball all the time, doing leg extensions, everything, but I just stay away from that deadlift. And then partially because of the sciatic pain causes me to not want to do the deadlift. And you brought up watching your video. I probably watched 40 of your videos. Watching the videos, you talked about deadlifts being life, and me coming to the realization, this pain is causing me to not want to go do that. Today, I'm going to go do deadlifts. But that can you talk a little bit about that, trying to avoid that one thing and how that is so important for you?
Yeah, it's like there's a couple of things, right? And I think we avoid them because they hurt, but we avoid them thinking that pain is going to make it worse. But yet we're the same people that are going to go crush a leg day, and for the next 3 days, we can't even get off the fucking toilet because it hurts so bad, right? So we're like, which pain are you choosing? So we've been conditioned that's like protect the low back. First of all, your low back is tough, so tough. It's designed to take abuse. The vertebrae are like this big, right? So it's designed for abuse. It's not that. It's that we do that. Most people do deadlifts incorrectly because they have some coach that has no idea how to do a deadlift. And I always tell people, watch a toddler. Watch them pick something up off the floor. They will either squat or they'll bend over in a deadlift to pick it up, and they will execute it perfectly because you know how to do it. All you do is fuck it up. So I tell people, start doing deadlifts, do them properly. I also have people do them single leg because we tend to drive more power down one side than the other, and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
And that asymmetry is just, it creates much more of a problem because then our egos take over and we go, well, I want to pull more weight, but you're just driving more horsepower down one side and hemorrhaging the rest of it out the other side. And that just causes more issues. So you got it. It's life. How are you going to pick something up off the floor when you're 85? Yeah. It's always the same thing. Go, what are you going to do in your life? Like we own a company in China. And it's probably taboo to say that now, but anyway, we own this company in China, this education company in China. I've had it for years. And I remember I would go there and do these seminars in front of like 3, 4, 5,000 people. And they'd sit there, Michael, they'd sit there in a perfect squat, writing notes for 8 hours. Fuck, most people can't even imagine, they can't even squat without going on their toes.
Yeah.
Because they're so inflexible. Part of that is no deadlifts, no squats, no hanging, no pull-ups. Like those are life. You ever try and get into a boat from the water? You're doing a pull-up.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about pull-ups was the other exercise that you talk a lot about, like pull-ups like this with the pronated, like this with the hands like this, as opposed to chin-ups. And that was where I noticed the problem is that chin up's no pain whatsoever. And I noticed I'm
this way, big pain, right?
Yeah. This way is this shooting pain right here.
Yep. Break your radialis for sure.
And I was just like, okay, well, let me look what you said. And you started talking about grip strength. And that's when I started start looking at grip strength, which also helps me because I throw footballs all the time. And it kind of helps with that too. Yeah. So that's interesting. So that essentially when you have this bicep pain, because you also mentioned before, you talked about you having shoulder pain here, and that would be, or I'm sorry, you talked about having bicep pain and that was in the shoulder. You're saying like one joint up is actually where the problem is.
Correct. Yeah, you're one long kinetic chain, right?
Yeah.
Like we tend to be very like singular focus on a problem, which is great when you're making targets and stacking wins, right? Singular focus that trumps everything. We have too many plates spinning, people make idiotic decisions. But when it comes to how the mechanics of the body work, dude, you are one giant kinetic chain. Throw a pebble in your shoe and then go play basketball. Let me know how that works out.
Yeah.
You're just gonna be a fucking train wreck. So with the shoulder, I tore my shoulder. I got greedy, just an ignorant, arrogant asshole. I got greedy on a snatch, and I remember how I go up underneath it, and I heard it. It was just like this ripping horror. It's like cutting through fucking cabbage. Boom, weight came down. I'm out. Super spinatus tear, right? And it was one of those things where my mechanics were off, and I babied the joint, and I wasn't training properly. So I thought I was, but I wasn't incorporating all the movements that are very simple to design just to go train your body as a whole, right? Not just piece by piece all the time. I am all for bodybuilding, all for it. Because anytime I did any kind of bodybuilding, Michael, I don't think I've ever been anything other than sore. I never got injured. When I started doing functional fitness and explosive movements and much more athletic things, I got hurt all the time.
Yeah.
You're just taxing the body. But again, that's life, right? So I think you just got to marry the two so you don't wind up making an imbalance in yourself, because it's very easy to do.
The shoulders. Can we talk about shoulders real quick? Often you talk about people they were hunching over. What are generally what's causing the injuries in the shoulders, and then what do you usually prescribe in order to fix that?
So tight lats and tight pecs. And what's funny is how many people do you think that a lat, right? The lat and the pec do opposing things. Everybody, except they don't. They do internal rotation, and they are monster strong. So they both attach on the inside, and they crank you in. Well, if they're short and tight, how many people struggle being able to put their hand over their head all the time. So I have people hang, and then I have this one banded exercise. It's basically like doing a V shoulder press with a band out in front of you. You're resisting from it pulling you forward, and it's a game changer for people. Because if I can give you something that if someone says, Trevor, how do I make $1 million? And I give you the blueprint that I've used, and I go, do this, this, and this, and it's not complicated, you're going to do it. If it has all kinds of moving parts, you're going to be like, fuck, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. Same thing with fitness, same thing with a relationship. It's always the same. So if I give people steps that are very effective and easy to execute, they're going to do them all day. So that's always what I'm trying to do. How do I combine things without making them really complex? Shoulder problems? Hang 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes a day. That's literally pronated grip, hang, accumulate 5 to 10 minutes a day. If you just did that, you're going to increase the longevity of your shoulders by tenfold.
Awesome. And then the other one that I thought was amazing was the one for knee pain, where you actually put a kettlebell on your shoe, right? And so you for the tibialis anterior. Yeah, can you talk about that for knee? So I had ACL reconstruction, and on the outside of my patella, it feels like there's a marble or like a rock in there. It almost feels like my kneecap doesn't align perfectly and go up and down the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, it doesn't track in the groove it's supposed to.
It doesn't track perfectly, and I actually have to stop when I'm playing basketball and massage it right back into place when I'm hooping. and I was just curious, what are some of the things that you talk about? What causes the knee pain, and then what are some of the solutions that you have?
So the knee, in at least the way I look at it, is like an elbow, right? It's just a horsepower transfer joint. It doesn't really have any function, right? That's kind of a generic statement, or a general statement, but it just transfers power from the hip to the ground, right? Yeah. Or whatever the target is, a person's face or a ball or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just transferring power. So if the knee, it's just a hinge with a slight little, it's got the screw home mechanism, right? Like that slight little twist at the end when you lock it out. If there's any issue with the knee, the first thing I do is I look at what's affecting the knee. I look at the hips, but I look at the underside too, and I go, well, what's the foot doing? It's 26 bones in the human foot. So there's a lot of shit that can go wrong. And so I kind of balance those out. And then if the horsepower is going across the joint adequately, I get a little more detail. That was for something called the tibialis anterior, which is always undertrained. Nobody ever does that. And yet, if there's people that have specifically ACL issues and even PCL issues, that's my first go-to is to do that.
You're talking about the bone, the muscle over the tibia and the lower part of the leg.
To the lateral side on right side or left side.
This is the outside of the shin.
Yep.
Up near the knee. Okay, got it.
Yeah, not all the way on the side. Those are peroneals. It's kind of this way, right? Okay. So if this is the tibia, it's kind of that big fat meaty part. If I'm on my right leg,
it's incredible that there are Latin words for all these things. That's unbelievable.
It's like another language, man. Yeah. It's just crazy. And believe me, it's sometimes I think my wife, she's like, "You have any idea how much shit you fucking know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, too much. Trust me." Sometimes I just get it out. But the other thing is, I told you, like 3rd grade level, I really try. So if I go off, be like, Trev, hey. Come back here.
No. I think we have an audience. Like I do podcasts on quantum mechanics. You can go off as far as you want.
Good. Yeah. You got. I've listened. You're gnarly, man. You got some wild shit. Yeah. So, but I just want to make sure that, like, if you work things, like we have inherent weaknesses based on. You can go back to what you were talking about, right? Evolution and how we are. We are building, like epigenetics, right? We are building in weaknesses right now based on the confines of our environment and the guardrails we've placed on ourselves as a society due to the hypnosis of social fucking conditioning. So we're making ourselves weak.
Yeah.
And then what the byproduct of that is, do we have more or less cancer? Way more. Do we have more or less injury? Way more. Like all of this stuff because we aren't doing the things that allowed us to become strong. Now I can go on about like the powers that be and all that stuff, but we're just not doing it. So when I look at things like this, like we talked about the tibialis anterior, it's weak because we're not doing the running and jumping and playing. And like when I played King of the Hill, I'm 49. When I played King of the Hill, dude, somebody's diaphragm is spazzing out. Because like that's fact. When I played dodgeball, I'm going for your head.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that comes from the weakness we're building in ourselves, which is why you get shoulder pain, knee pain, hip pain. It's not necessarily from the athleticism. Like most people outside of like Charles Leno, like comes at me and smokes me, right? Like, well, I'm 5'10" and 2 bills, he runs a 4.40 probably. And he's probably like, let's get hit by a locomotive. So I'm going to die, but that's a different kind of an injury. If I have like myself and I'm not running and playing and jumping, doing all the stuff that makes bones and tendons and muscles strong, I'm going to have problems. I'm going to have aches and pains. The most active people I know in real activity, not like, hey, I do my, like mom fit or whatever it is, like, God bless you, but you need to do more. They don't get injured and they don't have a lot of joint problems. Arthritis is 100% available or avoidable outside of metabolic problems like RA and autoimmune issues and stuff. But yeah. Arthritis is a joint. It's not a fucking disease. It's something wearing out. People, everybody wears out. That's not what I'm talking. You are engineered to be 100 years old, man. So like you cannot look at it any other way. So when mechanics are off, like you said, right? When mechanics are off, an injury happens as a byproduct of time in a bad position. It's an accumulation of micro injuries that causes the injury for the most part. People go, I just blew out my shoulder. I was at jiu-jitsu the other day, and it's like somebody goes, oh, I just blew out my shoulder. I got surgery and this, that, and the other. I go, yeah, but that isn't what started. It wasn't jiu-jitsu that did it. It was like you're 44. It was the 43 years before that did it. Which is why I look for the weaknesses. Like it's with the kettlebell on the foot. You want to strengthen up your knee, look for the really weak, unsupported areas and the stuff that you hate to do. Do more of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's part of the problem was the deadlift thing that I didn't want to do.
Well, and we cherry pick the shit out of our stuff, right? Yeah.
I do workouts that I like to do and that make me look better, right? You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
And then the deadlift.
Dude, I have a friend of mine, Michael. I got a friend of mine. He trains forearms, biceps, traps, and calves. I shit you not.
He does nothing else. That's hilarious.
He's like, those are the muscles. That's all that you see. I'm like, dude, you are going to hurt so bad when you're old.
It's so funny. Yeah, that's exactly right. So let's talk about this. One thing you and I very much have in common. The most I've ever done is 60 books a year. I'd go audiobooks. You've talked about doing 300 books a year. Can you talk about, you use Audible? Is this something?
Love Audible.
You don't?
My Audible library is fucking giant.
And you don't, so I don't listen to music anymore. All I listen to are podcasts, audiobooks. Yep.
What do the lyrics of a song teach me? Nothing.
Exactly. Can you talk about that whole thing about was there a point where you listened to music and then you transferred over to audiobooks? Can you talk about that transition?
Yeah. Are you kidding? Michael, I was a long-haired rock and roll singer, man. I was screaming out Def Leppard and Bon Jovi and Journey, and I was up there with a guitar and wailing in front of crowds in bars forever. Like that was like my thing, right? So I always listen to music. And like my parents made me take piano lessons when I was 4 years old, and they made me stay there until they were like, I respected my parents. So if they said do it, I did it, right? Like I wasn't like, fuck you, like the kids now. So I would just do it because I respected my mom and dad. But I probably took piano lessons until I was 17 years old. So I got real good, and that's what I would do, would listen to music. But I remember one time I was at the library, and I don't remember what it was, Michael. I had to do this project, and we could pick any book, and it could be an audiobook if we wanted. And that's when there was these things called tapes that most people don't know. And it was an Anthony Robbins tape, like a big giant binder with tapes in it, right? And I opened it up, and I was like, I don't even know who this fucking guy is. I think I saw him on an infomercial once. Oh, well, whatever. So I stick it in, and I was like, oh, this guy's got some pretty wild shit to say. That was the catalyst. I went down the rabbit hole so hard. I was like voracious. I mean, we're talking like Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, it didn't matter who it was. I mean, now it's like anybody, Grant Cardone, like anybody I listen to, I can possibly consume. I do, because it like, like Jen Sincero, I actually like her stuff. Her stuff's really good. And like things like that, like anything that's going to level me up or give me even if it's only one, and you and I both know plenty of shitty books out there, plenty. If I get one thing out of it, I knocked it out of the park. It just, you have to get through the whole book to get to it, right?
Yeah.
So I started, and I would commute, right? So we lived California is the place where they tell you distance is a time. They've all fucking failed physics because it doesn't make any sense, right? So they go, how far is it? Oh, it's like an hour and a half away. What? Where's the mileage on that, man? I don't understand the language you're speaking. So it took me a while to figure that out. But I would drive an hour and a half home from my clinic to my house, even though it was only 25, 30 miles, because you just stop and go bullshit 5-lane, highway 4 traffic. It's like that LA garbage. And then the same thing on the way there, I would just leave. I would leave the house at 4:30, 4:45, just so I didn't have to fight traffic. And then I'd sit in my clinic, in my office, and listen to books and take notes. The struggle I had though was I take notes. So if you're driving, don't fucking do this, but I would sit there and use pages and notes on my phone all the time. And I have thousands and thousands and thousands of notes from books because I retain it better. It's bisensory, right? I hear it and write it. And so I started listening to books, and then I realized I wasn't listening to them fast enough because I would just consume it, like voracious. So I went, holy shit, there's a speed button on here. 1.5, let's do that. So like, that's all I did. And I accumulated, it's 1,700 books. I think I'm just over now on my Audible. And I just knock them back as much as possible. And not because I go, I think if you find 5 books that serve a purpose and really knock something home for you, listen to them over and over again. When people are like, you have to read all these books all the time. If that's all you're doing, you're placating yourself and using it as an excuse, because these people run out and they never read past the first chapter, but they go, hey, Michael, I got this really great book. I just started reading it, but they never get any further, but they feel better about themselves.
Yeah. I just finished, I can't remember, Alpha God, and I was listening at 3.1 speed.
Yeah. Is that good?
Yeah, it's really good. It's somewhat critical of the Old Testament. They get into some like really. I'm actually doing a religious debate with somebody in Dallas later on next month, and it was one of these. As a religious person, I don't take what's in the Old Testament specific, like literally, and so I don't believe the Earth was created actually in 7 days. So stuff like that. I believe in dinosaurs. So we're having a debate. The
7 days?
Yeah, the book is
7 eons. Maybe.
7 eons. Yeah. Well, then the book is about that. I don't want to get too far into that whole thing, but that's what the book is about. And I listened to it at 3.1 speed, and it was perfect. In fact, it got to people are so confused when I say this. They're like, Michael, I listen to these books and I have a hard time retaining them. And I'm like, then speed it up. They're like, what? It's like, yeah,
exactly.
Speed it up and you'll actually retain it better.
Is that wild?
Because the spaces in between the words will actually shorten, and you'll be getting the good shit, the drip all the time. And this is a hard.
Your focus is off, right? It's like a rest. Too much of a pause. And you don't retain it. That's funny you said that, because that's the only reason I did it. Yeah,
it's so crazy when I explain to people, go from 1.2 to 1.7, and you're going to notice you're going to actually listen to it more, because you're going to be more alert. Somebody's speaking to you quicker. Your brain is going to be more alert to it. Right. The other thing I found is that if you ever play someone at speed chess and they beat you at speed chess, if you take them back to normal chess, they end up losing. Because them going that slow, it becomes very difficult for them, right? Because they're used to processing things at a high speed. You can actually train yourself to where you're so used. If you guys have seen my clips on Instagram, where I go off and I start talking super fast. In my mind, I'm not talking fast. This is just me, how I listen to audiobooks at that speed. And I sound like I'm on crack. And that's
but it's effective.
That's exactly right. Yes. And
like I get accused all the time. They're like, dude, do you have another switch? I'm like, this is the only one I know, man.
I was telling the girl I'm seeing, I was like, I have a 10 and then there's a 1. One is me watching the Cowboys on my couch with slobber coming out of my mouth, wearing something sort of like pajamas and barely moving. And then 10 is me at the podcast yelling at people. There's no in between. There's 10.
That's why this energy's good, man. Like I don't have another speed. Like I could rap with you all fucking day because this is easy. It works for me. There's only one person I've really, I sped him up a little bit, but not as much as usual, and actually 2, that's a lie. There's 2, Alex Hormozy and Grant Cardone. Both of them they are so fast when they speak.
Yeah. You don't have to speed them up as much.
No, just a little bit.
Yeah, but like if you listen to, so I recommend a lot of fiction to some of my clients, like The Martian by Andy Weir is one of the best books on like self-sufficiency. The guy is like basically uses math and science to save his own life. I recommend a book to everyone. In that book, it's really good. Or anything of the Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones series. Those are written, they're spoken very slow, so I speed those up a lot. But it just stuff like that is, I'm telling you. So I'm not at 1,700. I'm probably about 600 books on my Audible. And when
that's a shitload. People don't understand though. That's so much.
People don't read. It was really funny. So I was the first person to finish Bilzerian's book. He got me a copy. So Bilzerian lives near me, and he got me a copy the week before it came out. And I got through the book in 3 days. Now, here's the funny part. There is no Audible version of it, and I read the book. But I read it I read the book at triple speed. I know some people are going to not believe me, but watch me do it. I have notes on all 94 chapters of that book because I got so used to listening to audiobooks at that speed, I could read at that speed. You can train.
You pick out key portions, right?
Well, it's not even true. It is almost like the difference between a distance runner and then Usain Bolt. You can literally train your body to be used to processing things at a faster pace.
Sure.
And that's what I learned to do through the audiobooks, and that's what I learned to do. Also, playing video games probably helps too. Playing competitive video games. You'll see kids that will do this while they're playing Doom or whatever.
My son, fucking Michael, my son jumps up and down when he plays video games. So my son is this badass little jiu-jitsu kid, right? 10 years he's been rolling. He's as dangerous. He's the guy that'll hug you after he puts you to sleep. He'll be like, oh, okay, are you okay? Like he's just got a good heart, right? Just a really, really good fucking heart. And when ever since he's been playing video games, like he's one of these guys that's just, he only has one speed. I can't imagine where he got it from. Yeah. But he's just so fucking fast. And like if it's running, he got it from my wife because my wife is insanely fast. But when he processes information, Michael, it's so fast. I was watching him play a video game one time. He was probably 5. And if I can find the video, I'll send it to you because you will piss your pants laughing. He's jumping up and down like crazy playing this video game.
Playing Fortnite, something like that.
Yeah. And he's accurate as fuck.
Yeah.
And so he's been doing this. He's 13 now. He's been doing it since I've seen him play video games. And so one day in the house we were in, there's a balcony. It looks down over the great room, right? And I was like, there's no one around. Fucking grab the video game. It's like, I gotta try this. So I start playing. It's like, okay, I got this. This is great. I grew up playing video games. I play video games lately. It's fun. And I'm like, I'm gonna try fucking jumping. So I start jumping, and then I hear this, and I was like, there's my wife. What are you doing? I go, I'm trying to play like Pierce, man.
Yeah.
How the fuck does he do this? I felt like a retard. Like the way he processes everything, like to play, to comprehend, and to jump.
Yeah.
I couldn't even wrap my head around it. And I move pretty quick.
Yeah. It is one of these things. Here's the other part. This is the part that I'm trying to get everyone to understand. If you slowed him down, he'd do worse. This is the part people don't grasp. I'm not only training myself to go faster with the way that I listen and comprehend, that if you try to slow me down, you'll see this on when I do 3-hour Q&As with my clients 2 or 3 times a week. And when I do these, you'll see how fast I try to get through there, because when you slow me down, I'm actually less productive. There's a sweet spot for me with audiobooks. It's somewhere between 1.7 and 2.5. If they're really slow, like 3.0. And what I'm explaining to you, if for some of you who are listening to me and you don't understand what I'm saying, if you can grasp this one concept of listening to audio at a faster pace, you can teach yourself. Do you remember in the movie The Matrix where he pulls that thing out of the back of his head and he goes, I know jujitsu. This is you pull it out of the back of your head, and I know jujitsu. Alex Hormozy, I know the $100 million offer. I know the 10X rule. Like I understand quantum mechanics. I understand the theory of everything. Just pull it out of your head. But that's what happens. It is such an incredible, there's no other gift.
Huh? Right? you just have to have them try it. People are so afraid of
exactly right.
They don't know how to make decisions anymore, right? People are so afraid of making a decision because they're afraid of making the wrong one. They don't want to try it because they're afraid of being seen to fail. Just fucking try it.
Yeah. Everyone can learn to do this. Everyone can learn to go fast, even if it's 1.2. Okay, 1.2. Everyone can get to 1.7. I'm convinced everyone can get comfortably listen to audiobooks
agree, man.
at 1.7. Okay. Yep. Now this is part of an overarching thing you talked about, which is time compression, which is a big part for me as a former U.S. military, former Air Force navigator. And one of the things I teach in my entrepreneurship section is how to checklists and alarms. And the one thing by Gary Keller where we compress, like when you handle that one big thing at the beginning of the day, all the other dominoes fall into place. Can you talk about time compression?
Sure. So like some of the things I get a lot of people asking me, like even in my coaching program, they're like, my day is really scattered, right? There's too much going on. I never get things done. And then I stay in bed at night and I run a train on myself, right? My brain just goes fucking mental. And I go, your brain is listing off all the things you didn't get done during the day. That's just pure, that's like, you can't argue that. That's just fact. Because all the things you're like, I should have done this. Why didn't I do that? I need to get this done. That's why you're staring at the ceiling. Because you didn't use your time right, and your brain is punishing you for that. Go and get your fucking ass out of bed and go do it. So what I started doing is I went, okay, so I don't care if someone needs 5 hours of sleep or 10 hours of sleep. That's on you. When somebody's like, you should get 8, says who? Sleep faster, right? I don't believe that at all. So what I started looking at is how to get more done in less time effectively. Lots of people cut corners, but they cut quality in all the things they're doing too, right? I mean, we've seen that a ton of times. So what I started doing is I set everything as consistent as possible, which allows me a lot more free time. Because like you're taking up bandwidth in your brain if you don't finish your tasks, if you don't complete in completion, which was a real problem for a lot of clients that come to me, is they're like, I don't even know where to start. I go, because you have a bunch of incomplete tasks, because you are scattered in your orientation of time. And they're like, well, I can't do it that fast. Not true. If I only gave you that, and that was all you had to do, and you had to do it within the confines of this time, you would get it done. Well, yeah, but that's different. It's no different. I give myself guardrails, schedules, right? And I do not allow it's not up for debate. I get up at the same time. I go to bed at the same time. I schedule the fuck out of my life. My whole life is such routine. It's almost creepy. Like half the time, like we schedule fucking sex. Like it is so, not all the time, but it's like one of those things that schedule it and you're guaranteed to get it done, and give yourself a start and stop point. And you will gradually see that you can do things faster because you become better at it. It's like you're reading. Yeah. You'll actually get more done, and you'll do it more effectively by compressing the time. But people go, they fill their thoughts with filler, right? They have something that they need to get done. It stresses them out. And then they go, oh, I'm really stressed. So they look for something to relieve that tension and occupy their mind and kind of take them away from this. So then they start doing whatever this is, video games, like eating fast food, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not the primary task.
Yeah.
And then they start to do that and they start to feel overwhelmed. And they're like, fuck. They get stressed out. So then they go back and they attack this, but now they're even further away because they have a bunch of other things on their list. So what do? They go back and look for shit to occupy their time and take away the tension. And they do that over and over again until they have this big shit pile of things that need to get done. And it never does, because they say, I don't have the time. It's not true. They just haven't organized their time. So I start and stop my day every day at the same time. I train at the same time every day. And I give myself, I start with my clients, I give them 2. You got to do 2 non-negotiables, action steps, because we set targets, right? So 2 non-negotiables every day. It's not up for debate. I don't care if you're up till fucking midnight, you screw up your nighttime routine. You are finishing them, because the worst thing you can do is not finish it. That's what eats your time, because then you look for ways to relieve the stress. Right. And so I do that. And then we just keep adding things to that list and making things more difficult, more challenging, and spreading out more of what we have to get done in less time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you read the One Thing by Gary Keller from Keller Williams Realty?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's that book.
Yeah,
that book changed my philosophy. I don't believe in multitasking.
You fuck it up.
Yeah, I try to use this analogy. If I have something really big like a semi-truck, an 18-wheeler, if I go from first to sixth and then go down to third, then back to sixth and fourth, I'm wearing out the gears and I'm being less productive. There's actually this slippage that happens as I'm switching gears. If I can just stay in sixth gear the whole time and ride the whole way, I'm going to get better gas mileage and I'm going to get to my destination faster. Imagine your brain as, say, your mental energy as sort of the inertia, the equivalent inertia to that 18-wheeler. As I go I'm like work, phone, video games, work. Every time I go back and forth, there's a slippage in the gear change. If you can avoid all those gear changes and all that slippage, then you are more productive and you get through a more difficult thing quicker. And when you train yourself to do that, then you ends up working. I know so many people who literally take pride in multitasking. The fact that you're
weird. That's fucking weird.
It is so crazy. Multitasking is a fail. It means that your planning was a failure if you're doing multitasking.
It's like people look at things, right? They're like, I have all these things I need to do. And instead of looking at this one, they're looking at this one, but going, I have all these I have to do too. It's like shaking an hourglass going, why are more grains not coming through?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's the other thing is like mine is literally called clarity of goals, my to-do list. And on my to-do list, I reorder it by priority. And the first thing is the thing that I get done for the day. What I do is
the hard one, right?
The Notes app is handling the anxiety. All the other things I got to worry about are in my Notes app on my phone. I'm only handling the one thing that's in front of me. That's why it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. That's the only thing I'm concerned myself is with that one thing. So there is no anxiety because all the rest of the stuff is on some spreadsheet or some notepad. That's going to be handled when I get to that point. Right now, the only thing I'm going to handle is the one thing. Like for instance, last night, the one thing was to get through the questions for you. That was the only thing. I told everybody, hey, I can't take any calls right now. I'm just going to work on this. And I did it while I was shooting free throws and lifting weights. And so that's
meditating.
Yeah, exactly. Meditating. That's exactly where I came up with that. Can we talk about this other concept? And I really enjoyed this. You talk about dealing with haters. I ask almost all my guests about this. You also talked about the crab in a bucket mentality, which is the concept of everyone like if you find a mentor, generally, this is what I found is that I used to work in nightlife for a long time. In nightlife, you'll generally find that if you work as a sub promoter for a promoter, that promoter wants you to do well, but not better than him.
Yep.
Right? Yep. He wants you to pull you back.
They will not pay you enough to live next door.
Correct. So can you go into that whole concept of like crabs in a bucket and the whole concept of haters?
Sure. So what I've learned is, like, I fucking live for haters, man. I love haters because first of all, they make me a whole bunch of money because they talk about me for free, and that's fine. You can't buy that kind of publicity. It's great. But the other part is that the only reason people hate on the success, the wins, anything anyone else is doing. Like I made a post today about being offended. Listen, offend away, be offended. You're so fucking fragile. That's why people think haters affect them. How is someone else's opinion going to have any relevance on you unless you give them control of your life? Like that is like letting somebody live rent-free in your brain. Why would you do that? So I never could process it. So when I look at haters, the more people look at your circle, right? Most of your haters are in your circle and you don't even know it. And I think what happens is people look at you through two lenses. They look at the first lens is your position in their life, and the other lens is their position in yours. And neither one they want to change. They want it the same all the time. Because if it changes, it forces them to look back at themselves and reframe where they are and that they aren't where they want to be because they've already like just sold themselves off on their goals and their targets. So they go complacency, right? It's better here. I'm doing better than Susie down the street. Like fuck Susie. I don't want to be better than Susie. I want to be better than me.
Yeah.
Right. I go and outwork who I was yesterday. And it's people, it's a cliche phrase. I do though. I just look for one more rep. I don't try and, transform myself in one day, but I'm going to do better than yesterday. Otherwise I'm not winning. And so what I think people do is they go, listen, I love it. I totally support you. But I love you unconditionally and all the bullshit that they talk about, but that's not true. They love you on one condition, that you're not doing better than they are.
Yeah.
As soon as you become better than they are, they start looking for reasons how to dog you and bring you down. And they will go through guilt. They wrap it up in support. Like they suppress your ability in this loving, kind bundle. Hey, listen, Michael, listen, we really care about you, man. And we're just looking out for you. We want what's best for you. But I really don't think you should start this podcast.
Dude, it's family members. It's family members at Thanksgiving. Not me particular, but sometimes it's family members. Sometimes it's like back at Christmas. And they're telling you these things that like they don't want you to do that would help. Exactly right what I'm talking about. Or guys that you went to high school with. Or when I go to my reunions and it's girls that I went to high school with telling me that they know that deep down I'm not happy. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty happy. Right. My life's pretty great. I don't need to change any of this. But yeah, that frequently happens a lot, dealing with the haters. And I just thought it was interesting. One other thing that I thought was interesting, David Goggins talks about this because I felt like I was the only one who did this.
Okay.
David Goggins talks about he will go and literally see someone hating on him, and then he'll use that as fuel in the gym. And I thought,
all day.
Yeah. Okay. So you do that too. So
fucking day.
People tell me that I'm unhealthy for that. I had Spencer Cornelia on here, Dan Fleischman. They're like, you know, you need to get away from that. I'm like, right before there's these Telegram groups I'm in, and then there's the like YouTube comments. I go specifically, and also TikTok comments. I specifically go through those right before I go to the gym.
Yep.
And I've used
the hot button, baby.
And David Goggins talks about you are all cockroaches. And my content is the peanut butter that brings you out so I can wipe all you fucking cockroaches out. And I was like, wow.
Yep.
Okay, wow. All right, that's that.
And I live for that shit, man. I live for that because I think the biggest thing people have ever done with me, Michael, is underestimate me. Yeah. And I love when people underestimate me. In fact, there are thousands of people that have underestimated me and gone, holy fuck. And there are probably thousands more that are hoping I will still fail. And they have no idea what's cooking in the kitchen, baby. No idea what's coming. But when they underestimate me, and that's what haters are, right? They just don't think you can do it because they can't do it, right? Yeah. They're like, well, I can't do it because I don't have the chops or the stones or the willpower or the mindset or whatever you want to label it as. So therefore you cannot as well, which is inaccurate. And that being said, I go, keep giving me fuel, baby. Because the best thing you can do for me is tell me I can't, because that's all they did when I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
You can't, you're never going to run again, never going to be athletic. You're never going to you're going to be on oxygen. And here's these 12 different medications. You're going to be on this stuff. I'm on exactly squat and I run like a fucking gazelle. There's no way, they're never going to be athletic again. Bullshit. Keep telling me I can't. And so I look at that as fuel. Like you said, like I look for that, and people put emotion into a hater going, well, yeah, but like they're hurting your feelings and they're offending you. How? Well, because you give them the keys to your kingdom? Listen, this is something I really convinced my coaching group about, is like, you are the most important person in the fucking universe. It is your world. Everybody else lives in it by your design and your choice. And I don't give a fuck about anyone else's opinion more than my opinion of myself. I always put that last piece in there because people go, well, that's pretty much of an asshole thing. No. That's not what I said. I care about my opinion about myself more than anyone else's combined. And if you cannot do that, you are subject to the opinion of others and you will fail.
Yeah. One of the other things I teach guys to do is like to find mentors. But what happens is when I try to tell guys to reverse engineer your mentors, like how are they able to be so successful? Well, one of the byproducts of that is you end up figuring out why they're so successful, but you don't include the alcoholism or the drug abuse or the narcissism. The
catalyst.
Exactly. I'll give you a small example. So in nightlife, me working in nightlife for a long time, I would see these guys were incredibly good at getting beautiful women to show up to an event. But when you'd see these guys, they were horrible misogynists. They were like terribly treated women like cattle. They were several times they were drug abusers. Occasionally they were physically abusive, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, let me use the part that works. I'm going to reverse engineer that. And then I'm going to get rid of all the other stuff. And what happens is I would level up so far past them. These are the guys in the crabs of the bucket trying to pull you down. It's the same thing with a personal trainer or somebody who builds your funnel. If you just figure out, okay, I'm just going to glean the good parts and leave the bad parts behind, you will inevitably pass those people because you don't have all the same bad habits they do. And this is something I've noticed even my business right now. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to say the names of them. There's two businesses that I was very close to that I witnessed them screw up over and over again, leave millions of dollars on the table because they were greedy and lazy. And when we started my company, I was like, I keep using these two businesses as an example. And the ethos of our company is to do the good things they did without copying the bad things they did. And we passed them. We passed them in revenue just like that.
Michael, that right there, if you said that to anybody and they actually absorbed what you said, they'll be rich.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
just like I had a coach tell me I bought a Ferrari that was nicer than his. I wasn't going, I'm going to buy one nicer. I was broke when I met my wife and she was house sitting. This guy had this crazy ass fucking Ferrari in the garage. And she was telling me, you want to see his Ferrari? I was like, nobody has Ferraris. I was like that guy, right? Like people don't have those cars. And I go in the garage. I was like, holy shit, this thing's fucking crazy. I'm going to have that car. Not a car like it. That one, I'm buying that car. 2 years later, he calls me up. He's like, hey, Trev, you still interested in the Ferrari? Fuck yeah. But I bought it and it was nicer than the exact same model that my coach had at the time. And he got all butthurt about it. What? If I was a coach, I want you to be more successful than me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Hater, right?
Yep. So can you talk about this, because we only have a few minutes left, the businesses that you have, Spartan, can you talk about how these businesses work, where you came up with the ideas for them? Do you do online coaching? Like how does your whole business model work?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically the biggest bread and butter business I have right now is the Spartan Company, which is basically men, muscle, business, mindset based. I take people that just are struggling in all areas of their life, and they just do not know how to, level up, and they've tried everything and they've hit all these walls, and it's like they need these one or two things that they're just missing fucking pieces that nobody's willing to give them, right? They dangle the carrot and go, hey, if you do my program, though, I'll give you the rest. I don't. I just go, listen, I'm going to give you everything, but you're with me for a year. That's it. And so it's fitness, it's mindset, I do coach calls every Saturday. It's a Zoom call. There's one tomorrow. You're welcome to come hang if you want.
Sure.
It's a coach call. It's live, and I go there and I give people marching orders every week. And then if they don't do them, I come to their house and I make them do burpees until they fucking die. It's like that kind of thing. But so Spartan Company is that. I have Spartan Media, which is a media company. So just like social media and marketing and building videos and stuff. And I just started that. Smashwerx is the hacks company, right? Like fixing injuries, but giving you all the stuff to do it, right? Like going, you don't need to run to the doctor unless you absolutely have to. And then by all means go. But so there's a huge library in that to go and take care of all that stuff. Body Hacks is my education company. So that's where I teach people exactly what I've learned to do. I distill med school, PT, chiro down into all the things you're ever going to use. And I go, here you go, do all this, learn it all. It's all video-based stuff. It's actually a pretty cool course. And then I have the Spartan Army, which is, I just started that. It's my Mighty Networks, which is a community where I'm building, you pay a monthly fee and you get workouts and mindset and coaching. And it's a lot like the Spartan Company without the really heavy push on business.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So I didn't understand that. That's awesome. So where is there like is there a central website for everybody to go find these different applications?
Yeah, you can go to Diced for Life with a number 4.com. I'll send you the websites.com. You can go to Smashwerx, ERX.com.
Okay.
Go to Spartan Army LLC .com. And those are the three that you probably want to go to that have all this stuff. Spartan Media, but most people won't hit that. So I would do those three.
It's really funny because you talk about giving away your best stuff for free. A long time Eben Pagan made this program. He talks about moving the free line. And so that's one of the things. I have this push and pull with my sales team because they want me to keep the best stuff for them to sell. And I'm like, no, I need to do podcasts for free. I need to do a 3-hour call every other week for free. I need to do access figures. Right? It's exactly right. Because what I want is and the same thing with you, I want people to be so far down the eco structure that when we get to a sales call, my guys don't have to sell. You already know this is the world you want to live in. This is the bubble you want to belong to. Is my MOA course, you with Smashwerx. This is the bubble you want. So when we get to that point, they are so used to being inundated with all the stuff that we put out there for free. It gives a level of credibility.
It's credibility.
Yeah, exactly. It gives a level of credibility.
Did you just say credibility?
I did. That was weird.
That's funny. Yeah, it's fucking great minds, right? But it's like, it's wild because I think that you help people, you tell people you can help them by helping them first.
Yeah.
And then you don't, I don't have a hook. I think I coached one guy. He was like, I cannot get these people to buy. I go, what are you selling? He goes through all this stuff. And I go, listen, first of all, this is going to take longer than just a phone call, but let's go through it. And I go, do the things you're coaching people to do. Have you ever done them? And he goes, well, sort of. Sort of is like being kind of fucking pregnant.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work. Go do them and then come back and coach them. And he goes, holy shit. 3 months later, he goes, everybody's buying my stuff. I go, that's exactly because you don't have a hook. You don't need a hook. You just tell your story.
Yeah,
I came out of the hospital in a fucking wheelchair, partially paralyzed on the left side, missing a lung. And everybody said I can't. I was 150 pounds, just skinny, weak, feeble. And they said, you're going to stay like that. It took me a year to get here. And I built 2 7-figure companies since then. And so I go, I've done it. I don't have a story. I don't have a hook. I just go, this is what I did. I can only show people what worked for me. Yeah, so I just go do that.
Irrefutable visual evidence. I love it, man. Yeah, you don't talk about it, you be about it. That's exactly right. Yeah, I do appreciate that. The stuff that you show in your videos. Again, I want to just point this out. Some of you have knee pain for years. He'll have a 2-minute and 15-second video that will change your life. It's so concise and well edited that it'll literally change your life when it comes to stuff like joint pain. He's giving away all this stuff for free, and he's got all these coaching programs. This is a key to success, which is why it's so great. You have him over 1 million followers on Instagram and almost 300,000 on YouTube, and this is the reason why all of this stuff works. So I just want to point that out. In our business, it's the same thing. I talk about networking while I'm doing networking. I talk about evolutionary psychology while I get Dr. Buss on the podcast, and that's one of the things that I love is that when you do the thing that you say you're going to do, you just have so much more credibility, because I believe you see the whole thing with FTX right now. The scam artists are everywhere. They're everywhere, right? And
and they're smart.
Yeah,
they're smart.
And so if you're just not
smarter than you, they are.
If you're just
that's like, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if in 2022, if you're just not a scam artist, if you're just not a scam artist, if you're just
a fucking person,
if you can just do the things you say you can do, you have such a moat around you as far as the business. Exactly.
Like I told you, I have 5 rules. Rule number 3 is do what you fucking say.
Yeah.
That's it. Do what you fucking say. That's all you got to do.
Beautiful.
And I run my entire life, my kids, my wife, everything, business through those 5 filters every 1,000 times a day. I run these 5 rules in my head, and that's it. I don't get complicated, but it keeps you it's like having core principles and values. It's exactly what it is. It just keeps you on point all the time, because you don't get sloppy, because there's nothing to get sloppy about.
Awesome. Trevor, awesome. We can find you at Smashwerx, WERX, on Instagram, and you can find it there on YouTube. You guys want to check that out, and you should have links to the other coaching businesses that you have. It's fantastic. Hopefully we can stay in touch. You can come out here and judge one of my bikini competitions.
Dude, I'm in.
You down for that? Yeah. You cool? I'll have you.
Man.
You and Wes Watson. I'll have you, Wes Watson, Dan Fleischman. We'll have an incredible judges panel. Bradley.
Dude, it'd be awesome, man.
It'll be a great time. Awesome, man. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. We got the break coming up. Thank you so much for all the support. I cannot believe. I saw the other day I get 2.4 million impressions on YouTube. I'm nobody, dude. I cannot say enough. Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate that. On TikTok, 1.9 million impressions a month. So thank you guys so much for doing this. I never thought any of this was going to be possible, but just being able to find mentors, guys who are really successful, like Trevor, and like he said before, Wes Watson's another guy that I look up to. Doing what they do, copying what they do, finding the best in what they do, humbling yourself enough to learn from other people. I think that's the key. So thank you so much for coming on, Trevor, and I will see all of the rest of you next week.
Awesome. Much love, man. Thank you.